Hi, everybody. It's me, Aurora. This class is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans, and today we are on Level 2, Lesson 5. It is called The Origins of Solar Consciousness. So as I'm going over my notes and I was looking at today's class, I'm happy to say, like, for the past 2 weeks, I've had to do a lot of self-critique of things that I recorded years ago and wrote about, even though I'm not very much of a writer, so spoke about and then later translated into written form with many, many grammatical misspellings, all about what I was perceiving 10 years ago, and the past 2 weeks in class having to do a lot of editing and tell you, like, not like this, because things different now. Things different now. And the things that I was talking about 10 years ago, I come from a very pristine level of existence. And all of those original sharings and viewpoints are very valid in a pristine system, in a world that is calibrated correctly, not in a world, I have to jump down for a minute because my papers fell down. Hold on. Thank you. Sorry, I know I'm not on camera right now, but I needed to grab the fan blew them off of my desk over here. Not in a world that is inundated with different forms of pollution or distortion creating technology. So some of the things that I have railed against are, of course, flawed shadow work, which I might have to touch on a little bit today because I am going to talk about the pathway of light, like what light is doing as a phenomenon in the world, and what is a shadow, and how does that relate to my higher dimensional viewpoint. So, we can begin with that, and I think that's an excellent starting point. Let me do a whiteboard. Okay, so everybody, this is a good starting point because you know why? Let's start off in art class. If you went to school or, whatever, some kind of formal education, maybe you were like, oh, good, art class. This is the best class. I'm not scared, not like math class, which scares me. Okay, so let's just draw an object. That's a weird color for an object. And I'll just choose a better color, please. I don't want to be confusing to you. Well, okay, that's the color that I want, but it's not really coming through as like black. This is what I want. Got it. Okay, good. Here, no, not there yet. Ooh, because I just changed the thing. Now we got to make it more visible for you. Okay, got it now, guys. This represents an object, and let's imagine that it's round like an orange or grapefruit or something like that. And so here we are in art class, and we're going to experiment with creating a horizon line, because that kind of makes it look like, the object's in a place. It's not just floating in the bounds of space, all right? And then the object still appears a little bit floaty. So what do we do in order to make that object, quote unquote, sit down onto the table that we've just drawn? We got to create a little shadow underneath it. And this is the little shorthand for that type of shadow, all right? And as soon as I do that, you're like, wow, Aurora, you knew something? It does create, even though it's a simple line drawn, kind of an optical illusion that now looks like an object that has volume as opposed to just, a round squiggle on the screen. So there's a lot, as I go back to my face here, with what we talked about last week, the human biological visual perception equipment. 2 eyes. Most people here have 2 eyes. And I'm infinitely recognizing that people have all sorts of different things in their life. And some people have 1 eye or no eyes or don't have visible, sight. So please recognize you're included in everything I teach here. But most people have 2 eyes, and that gives us the view of binocular vision, which gives us a sense of depth and formfulness. Do not necessarily look at the world as if it is a flat plane. And last week, what I talked about was turning the dualistic viewpoint into the non-dualistic viewpoint by adding a third viewpoint. And that is essentially what Flying River Lasagna is and does, or allows you to do in achieving the higher dimensional perspective. And I didn't speak enough last week about this little escape from the dualistic viewpoint. We'll do this more later in the semester, but I'm going to go over it now. Just like a good musician, you always go over your stuff and take it from the top. Let's talk about binary, because binary is also a dualistic concept where you have either a 0 representing nothingness, or a 1 representing somethingness. And when people look at that, they're like, oh, it's the binary system. There's only 2 options. But what you're really looking at is something more than 2 options. All right? Right. So what you have here is a 0 and a 1. A person would say, there are a limited number of numbers, a limited quantity of numbers. Let's start again. People would say, there are a limited quantity of numbers that Aurora is representing with this. And I would say, no, this is the non-dualistic viewpoint that is represented in this, but you have to know how to decode it. So you have a number 0 and you have a number 1, but in this number system, you don't have a number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, only 0 and 1. But if I hold them up and I say, count with me, class, how many things am I holding up? Count with me. Then I heard you, just like on Sesame Street. You said 2. There are 2 things. Yes, class, there are 2 things. Good job. We've all passed kindergarten. Hooray. There are 2 things. So we have a 0, a 1, and a 2. The 2 is represented by the 0 and the 1. So you don't just have binary, don't just have dualism. You actually have 3 things that are going on here, including the 2. And what that means is you continually add 1 in order to get more and more and more. You have an infinite amount implied by this system here. I know that's a lot. I'm asking you to do stretches with your brain by doing that. I started off with our class. It was easy. Then I made you do hard things with your brain. I stuck it in there. But truthfully, sometimes the higher dimensional viewpoint, or the thing that moves you beyond duality, is something that is a recontextualization or a new perspective on what you are already looking at. So although you have been indoctrinated to think a 0 and a 1 represents binary and duality, it actually represents something much, much more. And same thing with your viewpoint of having 2 eyes. When we add the higher dimensional viewpoint, which is the inner eye, and the eye of time, that allows you to see time in a non-linear existence, which is when instead of watching a movie from the embedded viewpoint of the first person experiencer, you are watching a movie like the film editor, seeing the first frame and the very last frame all laid out before you, so that way you can see the overall narrative structure of what's going to happen. And you can do that in your life with the higher dimensional perspective, higher dimensional viewpoint and multidimensional perspective. So how does this relate to light? Because when you are even conceiving of what light is, what light and darkness is, what good and evil is or are, and what consciousness and non-consciousness is, or order and chaos, a lot of it is your viewpoint affected, if not defined by, the biological container that you have as your body. You are not like a rock shrimp. You don't have the eyesight of a rock shrimp, and you don't have the composite eye of a beautiful bumblebee. They see the world really differently, or a dragonfly, they see the world wildly differently. So please know that their consciousness and viewpoint is equally as valid as yours, and it is part of the array of uniqueness in the world to give different viewpoints, all of which are important and, like I said, valid in the world. It's not like your way of looking at the world is the right way, and then a dragonfly is incorrect because they're not human. Cannot do that. That's called the anthropocentric viewpoint, which basically says human is at the center of everything, and everything must calibrate to human, and human is correct. Human is one viewpoint, and you are human, my wonderful class, unless there's any dragonflies flying through the room in the moment, in which case I would love to have you in my class. But the dragonflies definitely want more drawing, less talking, because they are much more visually oriented than sound oriented. But it would be important to recognize that human viewpoint is not only the important viewpoint, because like when people talk about their version of the afterlife or what a paradise would look like, it is very influenced in human theology with the sense that humans are supreme in nature, and that human consciousness will have an eternal sense of being worthy of being saved, but maybe not a dragonfly. And what do I always say when you guys come into class? Thank you very much. Thank you for being on it. You were good. You have to recognize a blade of grass or a dragonfly also are important organisms and also will add their viewpoint to the multiple, multidimensional view of what a true paradise creature experiences. So a true paradise creature experiences all of these different types of viewpoints woven together, much like a composite eye of an insect. So the insect's eye, I'll grab this little crystal over here because I think it's the best example. You can see this is not like a naturally occurring gem. This is human created, but it has all of these different facets. And that is what a composite eye is. So your eye, you have one lens and each eye is giving you one viewpoint. But for an insect, each eye gives an enormous number of viewpoints. Whatever, it could be hundreds or I don't know, maybe even thousands. And then their insect brain is uniquely crafted to be able to integrate hundreds or thousands of viewpoints to be able to create a puzzle piece of what reality looks like. Way more complex than your brain just integrating two. All right. And their viewpoint of the world and their theology and their sense of afterlife, life, death, and beyond is totally influenced by that multifaceted viewpoint. So just please comprehend that so that you can move beyond the anthropocentric viewpoint and reach this, which is your crown, but it's really your DNA and who you are on the level of pure light. When you are a identifier as pure light, you have moved beyond the human viewpoint, and now you are identifying really as consciousness and pure light. And many things happen when you get to that level of exaltation or wisdom or refinement, because remember, this is a refinery of consciousness that you are within. But basically, you've refined out all the garbage. The garbage is gone. And then you're in a very, very different level of reality where there is just a continuum of consciousness. And you do not see by recognizing consciousness versus non-consciousness or intelligence versus stupidity or something versus nothing. There's just something. There's just stuff, and all stuff is intelligent, but there are different qualities to the intelligence. So I already told you in your own eye, you have these receptor cells that show contrast. Where on my face, you see areas of light over here, areas of light, areas of light. Then you see up here where my hairline begins, areas of darkness. And your interpretation structure has learned from the moment you looked at your mother's face, you're like, oh, face here, no face here. Face here, no face here. Like you learn to find the edges in a structure and contour lines to be able to say, oh, I see what's going on here. If there's a face, there's a person there. And this is all like survival mechanism, cognitive structure type of thing. So you think that in the world, you're going to find sets of ideas that are like light, truth, information. That's the face, that's the stuff, the important divine intelligence. And then you're also going to see other stuff like darkness around the edges. This relates to art class. An object over here, what I didn't put properly, I should have put a source of light over here, like a sun or a light bulb, and the light shines on the object. And then the place where the light doesn't go is where the shadow goes. And you're used to seeing that, and you presume intellectually, in terms of data and information, that there will be a place where information doesn't flow. And that just makes sense, because that's just the way your world is structured and what you see. But that is not an accurate expectation. So I have to knock down that cognitive Jenga tower and say, no, don't think that. That's not true. I'm being very facetious. I hope that you think that I'm like a good teacher. I would never like do bad things to you. I would never mock your viewpoint. But yeah, no, you got to dismantle that viewpoint and that structure, because what I have to share is that when you achieve the highest level of viewpoint beyond the human-centered viewpoint, and you're in your DNA, or you're in your consciousness, or you're in your abstract self, not one arm, one face, two arms, two legs. Hopefully you have all your body parts. Not the anthropomorphic shape, your amorphous, pure light shape. You see a world that is made of pure light. You do not have a world where there's light and darkness. So now let's draw this out, okay? So first of all, let's rescue that whiteboard. Thank you always, guys, for being accommodating of me if I don't do things perfectly the first time. I get flustered when I'm trying to do a lot of things at once. Okay, so first it's one at a time. Let's choose a color. And let's make sure that we can show, here is a light source like the sun. You can't see it. Do it better. Here's the sun. Boom. And then here's like rays of the sun. I don't know if you can even see that color. It's so light on your screen. I'm just choosing this as a better color. Boom. There. Boom. All right. And then this area over here is shadow because it's the place where the light doesn't go. And that just seems to make sense. If there were not this big opaque thing over here where I am scribbling, the light would simply continue on its journey because that is what light does. Light just goes along and goes along and goes along until it meets either an object like this or has some interaction. And the interaction is literally the purpose of why this light is sent out. This light is on an exploratory path and it goes until it has an interaction. And then what it does is the light is really broadcasting back to the sun, this direction. It's a two-directional journey here, telling the sun, hey, this is what's going on over here. There's a thing here. Kind of like when, if this is a bat, and the bat sends out echolocation. These are sound waves that bounce off of an object. And then what they do is they bounce back to their source. They go like bounce, bounce, bounce back to here. And then the bat is able to make a calculation and determine that there's an object there. That echolocation is exactly what the sun is doing, but with light and with photons, okay? But it means, first of all, this area where the light has not flown, I want to say flowed, the area where the light does not exist is an area of ignorance, an area of non-illumination, an area of no information. And that is very qualitatively different than evil. So ignorance and evil are two very different things. Evil would be considered something that is totally chaotic or non-pattern or non-intelligence, not just like something that is unilluminated and doesn't yet know or is not yet known. It really is something that is erroneous. So in one case, there is a shadow here. If it is illuminated, it illuminates truthfulness. Light flows into an area and illuminates it with truthfulness. But if there is doo-doo there, if there is error, if there is stuff there that is not supposed to be there, then that is qualitative difference. And so you must never misinterpret what I'm sharing in my lesson here as shadow work, saying, oh, everything in darkness is necessarily unilluminated self. It is not. Not everything in darkness or in ignorance is yourself. In yourself, like if you are this object over here, if this is you on both a physical and an abstract level of consciousness, and then this represents the subset of things that you do not yet know about yourself. And then light flows into that area. Then you're like, well, look at that. Now I know this and that about myself. Like I never knew I was so good at whatever, growing potatoes, but now I do that. And now I know that about myself. Very, very different than this stuff over here being like rotten and evil. And if light flows into it, you're not like, wow, that's a part of myself that I didn't know about. It's literally like a pathogen or something that should not exist. So this is big stuff. In a non-pristine system here, I'll just draw something that's like these red dots are here, these dots over here. These are doo-doos that should not even exist. And they exist there, they don't exist, or they're whatever. They're over here in the shadow. And when light illuminates this area and it's no longer in shadow, and you look at it and you perceive it, can't claim those things as your own. You have to be like, oh, that was in my blind spot. I was ignorant to that. Now I'm aware of it, but what I'm aware of is something that is inherently flawed. That is actually not myself. All right, so you have to have that correct cognitive filter so that way you don't get bamboozled or scammed. Now let me draw the real world of light. The real world of light is like a continuum where you have, here we have, red, it has one particular quality. And then here I'm going to put, orange directly next to it. There's a qualitative difference and a qualitative shift. You can see it, of course, in terms of the red. If you squint your eyes, has a darker value than the orange, which appears lighter, but it's a continuum of information. Here, let's draw another color next to it. Of course, I'm going to choose yellow, but I want to be able to like make good points because I know that's almost invisible on your screen. Here, green, go through it, just get a blue. All right, so we did kind of just like a modified rainbow over here. If you are in the world of pure light, that would be like, imagine it's this area where I'm making this box over here, right? Because I didn't draw through the full screen. But if this is you and you're this little ant, you're walking along through this world of pure light, like, oh, I'm in a world of light. There's light, 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 and here's more light. And I continue to go. Here's more light. Here's more light. Here's more light. More light. More light. More light. Really, throughout that whole entire journey, there was light the whole entire time. But the light had different qualities. Like, you know something? The light that's over here has a different quality, making it red than the light that's over here, which is orange. And that is what my higher dimensional existence is like. There is not actually a contrast between light and dark, consciousness and non-consciousness. It is a world of totality consciousness. And this is everywhere. Consciousness and light is everywhere. But light can have different qualities. I'll go back to my face so I can really gesture this for you. Light can have different qualities. Light can be hard. Light can be soft. Light can be like fuzzy, glowy. Light can be watery. Light can have a fast quality to it. It can have a slow, like molasses, like chugging quality to it. It can have a sharp, jittery quality to it. Light can have so many different qualities. Just like think about music and the qualities of music. Like music can be strident, fast. Music can be slow and lugubrious. All of these different emotions that are emitted by the different feelings of music. Light is the same way. So that's why when I teach about this, I call it the interdimensional language of color, line, shape, form, movement, texture, and tone. So when you're in the higher dimensional realities and you're navigating, you will see all light everywhere. You will not see like, well, there's some areas that are illuminated, some areas that are dark. Like in your physical world here, what you're used to is some areas where you can see and some areas that you cannot see that are dark. And you literally use that as your survival tool to be able to do the right thing. Can't translate, it's not 100% analog, but that is not what things are going to look like in the higher dimensional realm. So you will just see information everywhere. Like on my painting here or on my dress, you just see information everywhere. And that's it. That you can definitely see there are different qualities. Some of them are big, some of them are small. They're this color, they're that color, they're different shapes, but there's information everywhere. And the information is all truthful. So in this world, you also have to have had to calibrate to the truth of trying to get the words out of my mouth correct here. Some stuff is true and some stuff isn't true. That's been a whole wisdom life lesson, like me calibrating at my original job as being a custom framer. Non-transferable life skills though, because where you're going in the world of all light, all information and all truth. But of course, there can be different levels of truth. Truth like a fire hose, full-on truth, power wash of truth, or truth like a slow, gentle shower, like, you know, gentle on top of some little baby flowers. Truth can have different feelings, all right? That's the different qualities of the light. And, you know, this is all part of higher information, divine intelligence. What organizes that truth? And then how do you calibrate and decipher it so that way it makes sense to you? These are non-random patterns and they contain intelligence and information. And in order to access it, you gotta learn how to calibrate to what is being said there. So you can't just be like, okay, first I got like, you know, a dash of cold water in my face, then I got a dash of hot water in my face. Like none of this means anything. You have to be like, no, these gradations and qualitative differences mean something. So like, oh, first I'm in some squashy light over here, and then I'm in some hard light over here. And these are two totally different things. So these different qualitative differences of light have everything to do with the chakras on your body, because the chakras on your body are all light that is moving at different rates. And I've been through this before in our class. I close this down for privacy. In our class, but also I'll just reiterate it for a musician's sake. These are all of the layers of reality from red through orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. And then of course, you've got like the dot of divine intelligence or white light up there, Or more accurately, you can imagine that dot really in here at the deep interior of your brain. But that's an important comprehension that all these colors add up to white light. You got to talk about additive color mixing, which is art class, which is fun. So all of these are moving at different rates. First of all, your red chakra is the light that's moving the slowest, and it's what we know as physical matter. And you guys, I encourage you and encourage you and encourage you, do my Path of Light curriculum. Let me just hydrate too. Thank you. Going a million miles a minute internally. Thank you. Do my Path of Light curriculum. It's really, really good, and it's very original. I'm going to interweave some of it in with my teachings from 10 years ago here today. But basically, I talk in there all about the abstraction of light and what light is doing, and even a new, more accurate and exciting way to diagram and conceptualize what the journey of light is. But basically, light emerges from the source and coalesces as matter. And it does that in your conception of, as humans, as the Big Bang. But it also does that in each moment with your observership. Big bang, big bang, big bang, 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 bang all day long, bang, 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 all day long. That's what's going on with you. It's miracles, miracles after miracles after miracles all day long, as you are coalescing pure light into matter. But that is not the end of the journey. You also take matter and you release it back into its formfulness of light or pure energy. And a lot of what you're doing that, where you're doing that in your body, is at the level of your mitochondria, these tiny subcellular organelles that are involved with taking glucose, like the glucose that I have in my tea that I just drank. I have some nice mate that has both lemon juice and some palm sugar in there. All right. So I've got glucose in the sugar and also a little bit in the stuff in the fruits. And it's going into my bloodstream. And then my mitochondria are accessing it, and they're literally changing it back into light. And the type of light that they're changing it back into, some of it is infrared, because my muscles are hot. You guys can't feel it through your screen, but I am hot. I'm like, wow, I'm like 98.6. I'm hot. And I'm radiating over here. It's kind of a hot day too, and I'm walking on a treadmill. But of course, I'm being silly, but I am hot. And you guys are hot too. And you know what else? I'm emitting brainwaves. That's a type of energy that science can measure. And of course, I'm reflecting light. Light is reflecting from a light bulb in the sun onto me, and I'm reflecting light back at you. So I'm emitting light in that sense. I'm emitting light through my vocal cords. Blah, 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 blah. Have some light. That's light. I'm emitting tons of light. So important for you to comprehend that you exist in a matter container, but you are emitting light. And what I do with the curriculum of Path of Light, bring people on an inner journey from the original early lessons and then upward to the more complex lessons as to like how you can change your view of your body and start to inhabit the truth that you are made of pure light, so that way you start to inhabit the world that is made of pure light, because it is a cognitive journey to make that leap into the world of pure light. So you don't get into a clank metal spaceship and shoot yourself into the sun. That is not how you go into the world of pure light. And you also, create like a particle accelerator and like stand in front of a giant, beam of particles. Be like, okay, hit me, light me up. That's not how you do it. You have to accelerate on an inner level in order to achieve light speed. And all of these are intellectual or cognitive events. But when you accelerate to light speed, there's only you being very, very fast and being surrounded by everything else that is infinitely fast, infinitely hot, infinitely intelligent, and infinitely organized in a state of intelligence. And there is no thing around you that is unintelligent, erroneous, in error, or disorganization, or darkness. It's not there. It non-exists. No thing non-exists around you. These words become nonsensical, but maybe if I hold it up like this, I sometimes use the expression, I say, you're on the bullet trains. This is now not the conductor of the cosmic infrastructure's baton. This is now a bullet train to infinity, all right? And you're on the bullet train of infinity. And on that bullet train, just like that gradation, there are just different gradations of light. And this is where everyone and everything exists who is on the path of light. And you're moving at light speed and beyond. And there is nothing around you that non-exists. That is not moving at light speed. So there is not a person on a platform, like watching, waiting for the train to go by, and then seeing the train go like whoosh. There is not an observer. There is no train platform. There is not Superman like running next to the train, seeing who's faster. There's not a bird flying next to the train. There's none of that. There is no one standing outside of this train in anger or jealousy or self-diminishment, being like, poor me. I wish I was on that train. No, there is not that, because all of that stuff is non-existing. So you're right now in a very, very turbulent time in terms of development of consciousness, because there's still overlap. Stuff that does exist with stuff that doesn't exist. And you are having a very difficult time of it because of that overlap. Like, Aurora, I can tell, like, there's a lot of stuff around here that doesn't exist. And if we were on the bullet train to infinity, that stuff would be busy non-existing. And I agree with you, and you are correct. And some of that stuff that doesn't exist, organizations, so larger social organizational networks, some of them are individuals, people, some of them are characteristics, ways of doing things. But none of those things exist in the higher dimensional reality. When you're in the higher dimensional reality, you have common economy or a shared bank account, and your boundaries are defined very differently. So even while you maintain your boundaries here at this level of reality, let me tell you a story that will create expectations that are accurate about what it's going to be like when we go into this higher dimensional level of reality. When you are in pure consciousness and you're in the realm of pure light, and there is light everywhere, and there is no ignorance, and there's also no non-self, there's only total self. You do not have to have boundaries in terms of your energy and your possessions, personal, individual possessions of private property. I am not espousing communism, because don't conflate with what I'm saying right now with anything that is in the realm of matter and materiality. All of those rules are different rules. When you get into the level of pure light and non-materiality or post-materiality, you all own light, or oneself. All consciousness owns all light. So you are not having to be in competition with other people. Be like, hey, like, I want to have 1,000,000 lights, and you only have, you have all the lights. Give me lights. Like, that is not happening here. It can be that way with dollars, or calories, or silos full of barley, or whatever people fight over. But things are different in the world of pure light. You could say that there's an infinite amount of light, but what is more accurate is that if you use things in a correct way, you have access to an infinite amount of light and energy, and it continues onward infinitely. But you cannot use it in a bad way. And so I want to get to this beautiful comment that you have over here, Charlie, but I just want to stay on with my track for a little while longer. One of the things I've heard about in human writing is called the Dyson sphere. And it's not a good thing. What makes me feel sad and concerned is that people here talk about it as if it is a good thing. Like Mr. Elon Musk talks on his X platform, and he says, we need to become at least like the phase of a civilization where we can create a Dyson sphere around a star. Like, that will definitely tell that we are like evolved as a species. And I'm like, no, don't do that. It's the most disrespectful thing you could possibly do to light. Okay. Doing that shows like you don't get to be in the club. Doing that kicks you out of the club of everyone who's cool, and you will never be on board of the bullet train to infinity if you do something like that. It's very bad, very naughty. No Dyson sphere. Like, I'm taking the scissors away from kindergartners. No, you're not allowed to run with scissors. Okay, so what is a Dyson sphere? It is a proposed technological apparatus that would say my hand is a star. And then let's say we're going to put a shell of solar collectors, like satellites, all the way around a whole star, so that almost 100% of the star's light, optical emissions, and high energy particles and beams are captured and then used for some power source, like to generate electricity or some other form of artificial siphoning of energy. That is terrible. That is terrible. I'm melting. I'm melting down. It is terrible. You can't do that. And the idea that someone would think that is really good is terrible. No. So I have to explain to you why. So Elon Musk and other people like him would be like, hooray, solar energy. We're gonna make stuff out of the sun and other things like that. Like totally not recognizing that like all of those photons and high energy particles, they might have a job to do. I'm here with all my attitude that I possibly can be. I might have a job to do, something more than going on to your solar collection panel. Might have a place to be. And it might be not according to your convenience or your agenda. And to take 100% of the emissions of a star and turn it into some kind of like, artificial solar collection siphoning thing is like the worst way to use energy from a star. Because what is supposed to happen is, as I already started to explain a little bit in today's class, you have a star and it sends off light, and this is not yet path of light, because path of light, I really twist your mind around and get you to comprehend that the photon never leaves the sun. And actually what happens is reality balloons around it, but we'll get there another time. But for right now, let's use the concept of the linear model, that light emerges from the star and then gets expanding or moving outward in various different directions, exploring physical space-time, all right? That just like the bat's echolocation, the photons are sent out as feelers, and they're supposed to feel stuff, and that the sun or the star is alive and conscious. Putting a Dyson sphere around a star is definitely imprisoning it, and it is definitely done by those who don't have enough inner advancement to even be able to consider that a star is alive and conscious and would not want to be locked away inside of a Dyson sphere. That if you can't even do that, you can't be a part of polite society. You can't. I clutch my pearls. Like, you cannot be here if you do not know that. That is a wrong way to be. That's why you would be kicked off of the infinity bullet train, because you don't even know that stars are alive. But yes, everyone, stars are alive and conscious. And my notes from 10 years ago are good and solid on this. Stars have a lifespan. And so right now you're in the world of mortality, where creatures and organisms and systems have limited lifespans, including like giant galactic universes, stars, and people. But of course, we emanate from a shell of reality, ancient concurrent Atlantis, where we are immortal, eternal, and we are that because we are always in alignment with the central core timeline, and we never explore the peripheral realities where you hit the membrane of death. So here you are in this level of reality where some stuff goes to the angle that leads to death, including a star. A star has an apparatus like this. And when the star is in perfect alignment like this, it is eternal and it does not die. But when it is like this, it dies. And it dies over and over and over until it figures out the correct symphony that it needs to play in order to not die and be eternal. So of course, within this larger time apparatus, if you have perfectly calibrated mirrors, they mirror light or consciousness to one another, and you never lose any amount of signal. Even with a limited number of units of energy. Let's say we have 100 units of energy, and I have two perfectly calibrated mirrors that are perfectly clean, and they never get any dust or smudges on them ever. And what I do is I either bounce energy or light back and forth between these two surfaces an infinite amount of time. You can have an infinite journey or an infinite economy within these two perfectly reflective surfaces. But what if something comes along and it yoinks away some of my energy or some of my light? Then I don't have an infinite amount of energy anymore. Then I just have 99 units or 98 units or 67 units. What if some nonsense creature comes along and takes away 100 of my units? And then I have 0 units bouncing between these mirrors, okay? All of that is a great loss. Stars bounce energy between each other. It is called the stellar network. Who am I as Aurora? I am an impulse on the stellar network. That is my brain up there. Don't put a Dyson sphere around it. That is not good. It's basically like encapsulating a neuron, so it can never talk with other neurons. So each one of the stars up there, out there in your linear model that you validly see like individuated points of brilliance in the night sky separated by space is a neuron, and it's carrying information. So you don't just have like one shiny bright neuron and then another weird random shiny bright neuron and like they're not related or talking to each other. No, they are related and talking to each other, and they're all part of a big, giant, shiny brain. And the brain is really God. It's really divinity. All right. And it's huge. It's so huge, you pretty much can't even conceive of it without incinerating your because you're in a small brain. You're in a small brain. So just like chalk it up to great mystery, but kind of look squint between your fingers, like I think it's kind of infinite. It is. It's giant. Okay. But like you don't need to incinerate your mind with an overabundance of truth right now. You will grow into it. You will expand, grow muscles, and then be able to encompass larger levels of truth. So just know that it's up there, out there. You don't have to know everything about it right now. And maybe that also kind of preserves some of the fun on the journey. But yeah, no, as you inhabit more light and accrete more light into your own light body, then you can comprehend more of the truth of what this is. And it's all you. So I don't want you to think that it's not you, but it is all you. But there are some things right now, here now, that are not you. So 100% of the stellar network is you, but there is stuff that is here now that is not you. And that stuff does not belong on the stellar network. So the stellar network is selective, and you can't just be Joe Schmo thinking a bunch of erroneous thoughts and be there. You actually have to be a perfectly clear, perfectly calibrated, perfectly situated mirror in order to be there, because that is part of what keeps this infinite journey going, of all of these impulses beautifully impulsing along. And the impulses come from the galactic center, which is a supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy. But every galaxy has a galactic center. And if you look up into the night sky, even with just a regular home telescope, sometimes you can see other galaxies, and they all have a galactic center too. So just like in your own body, you have trillions of cells, each one has a nucleus. In your world, you have trillions of galaxies, and each one has a nucleus, and the nucleus, or the stuff, the intelligence holding it together, is the galactic center, and that is a black hole. So let me hydrate, and we'll talk about black holes, but also let me go to this beautiful comment. Well, it's still somewhat relevant because it was made like 42 minutes ago. But good. And my body's like, yum, glucose. Okay, Charlie B, thank you for being here. Says, totally agree that binary demands that we have 3 states to talk about what is going on. Electrical engineers know that for a binary system, you always have 3 or more states. For example, binary hardware actually has 5 states. Okay, good. Let's go do it. Off scale low, 0, unknown, 1, and off scale high. Very good. We can round down to 3 states, but for a binary system, we can never round down to 2 states. This is true for all technology and counting systems. Thank you very much. That makes a very, very beautiful point. Charlie B, I'm going to reiterate for everyone. So the binary system does include something that would be considered off the range. Like we're measuring this much, but there's something that's over here that we haven't measured, lower. And then we're measuring this much, but there's something over here that is higher that we haven't measured. It acknowledges areas of ignorance or non-measurement within the system, and that is a sophisticated system. And then there's also included in the measurement system unknown. That's great mystery. Like, I don't know. I don't know how much is there. And that the unknown set, that is also important to acknowledge. So thank you very much for the additional information there and additional conversation and confirmation about what that is. Okay, let me also consult my notes a little bit to make sure that I'm getting all of the important stuff. Okay, so wait, let's do life cycle of a star, and that will relate to black holes. Because if you watch any science documentary that's about what black holes are, it's usually narrated by someone that has a voice that is like, the black hole of doom. Black holes go around eating lots of stuff, and there are monsters of blah, blah, blah. Like, it really makes it sound like it's something scary, intimidating, all this sorts of stuff. It's a lot of projection from the anthropomorphic viewpoint, and it's not accurate at all. So, as I said, in the world of Atlantis, we are immortals and stars are immortals too. That means that they're infinite, infinitely eternal, and that there's not an end to their presence. But in this world, we experience mortality, and even a consciousness at the level of a star is mortal. To begin with the birth of a star. And all of this relates to your body and is important to know about. So it's not just random knowledge. Stars are born out of something that is called a planetary nebula. So there's actually two different types of nebulas. One is pretty much like the precursor to a star, and one is like what happens kind of after a star is created. A planetary nebula is when you have a lot of superheated dust and gas that's in a giant cloud in a void of space. And then galactic superwaves move through that as an organizational cymatic principle. So I'm going to gesture for you what's a galactic superwave. Imagine like this is one side of the galaxy, and this is the other side of the galaxy, right? Like your screen is the galaxy. And then a galactic superwave is so big, I begin at one side of the galaxy, and one wavelength is the entire size of the whole entire galaxy. It's so big. Like you would be the tiniest little slice over here. It's so big. All right, so it's time scale that is so large that you would have difficulty perceiving it as a wave because your lifespan is so short. So maybe it might take like a million, gazillion, bazillion, googolplex, quadrillion, those are made up numbers, years for the impulse to go across there. And you only live for like 89 or 100 years. That is why you cannot perceive the length of this wave, because it is so big that one of them probably started like before human history and is still ongoing. And then your whole entire species has already gone extinct and it is still going, like almost impossible. In fact, one of the greatest challenges of talking to the stars is conquering the timescale issue. And this is not only of conquering this, the challenge of conquering oh my God, I can't even communicate with people who are human and moving at the same rate as me. It's so hard. Okay, I will try again with words. One of the greatest challenges to conquer in terms of communicating with the stars is the challenge of timescale. That it is very analogous to you talking to a fruit fly in your trash can. And fruit flies really only live for like 3 days. That's their entire lifespan. Or dragonfly is an excellent example of that. They only live for 24 hours in their adult form. So although they do live for several weeks while they are gestating in their kind of like tadpole-y, they swim around in the water, aqueous phase. By the time they come out of the water and they have wings and they're familiar with what we know, like the little tiny body and the big giant wings, that form only lasts for 1 day. Okay, 1 day. And that's a really perfect example. Born at sunrise, they come out and that's their day. And if you see them flying around, if it's whatever, 3:35 p.m., 2:49 p.m., you know they've only got like 5 hours left for their whole entire life. All right. And they got to get a lot of stuff done in that one particular day. They got to learn how to navigate. They got to learn how to fly. They got to figure it the F on out. They got to figure out a lot about life, find a mate, and make some babies before they die. They got 1 day to get all that done. Please comprehend that. Fruit flies, 3 days from the time that they hatch out of an egg to the time that they die. With either of these fun examples of the variety of life in the natural world, we can recognize that it can be so hard to have conversation. Like if you're having a conversation with a fruit fly or with a dragonfly, by the time you say your sentence, like, good morning, how are you? Like they have already aged whatever, maybe whatever, 5 years by the time you get that sentence out of your mouth. And then they have to somehow like say something to you, and their voice is going to go by that fast. It'll be like a nanosecond to you, and it'll be hard for you to even comprehend what they're saying. And then your next words will happen over the scale of the next 5 years for you to create the response. It's a very, very difficult time lag. Maybe it's not relevant anymore, but it used to be when humans had landlines, and you would call someplace far away, like if you were living in the United States and you called Alaska or Europe. Sometimes you had to be like, talk, pause, and then wait for the other person to actually get the message, and then wait for them to respond, and then pause. Like you couldn't just have regular interruptive conversation. And things might be really different now because of satellite tech and telecom and stuff like that. But it used to be kind of like you have to talk and then wait for your message to get there, wait for the pause, and wait for them to reply. This is what it is like for us to talk with the stars, and this is also what it is like for us to talk with the galactic center. So the galactic center is a supermassive black hole that is intelligent. To simply say that black holes are dead things is not accurate, because here, like in the realm of physical, fleshly, somatic cellular mortality, if you have a dead corpse, like you're not talking to a dead corpse, you're not getting any answers out of a dead corpse. But when you talk to a black hole, you are talking to a deceased star. But we would have to redefine death, not as like worms crawling in and out on your nose and playing pinochle, like the children's rhyme, jump rope rhyme. And that's not what happens. I'm very silly. Please don't take me seriously. No, because we envision death and organic biological decomposition, but we're talking about consciousness. What happens at death at the level of a star is that it is not the end of its journey of consciousness. What was an extroverted, outward-facing journey into the world of matter for the star then becomes an introverted, inner journey towards infinity. When the star, and this is of course the linear model, not my path of light model, but when it is in its alive emitting form, photons flow through it. They're not generated by it, but photons flow through it and emerge and go outward and expand in infinite shells that create this fabric of space-time that's spreading outward, right? And then when the star dies, it no longer has that solar wind that is sending energy outward, outward, outward. What happens instead is energy comes from the periphery and it comes inward, inward, inward. The journey changes from sending, what is it called? Narrative structures, stories of reality, outward, like your brain thinking out, out, out. And then only what happens is all that light bounces back in. So the echolocation of a bat sends out its waves, and then those waves bounce back and it learns about its environment. The star sends out waves of consciousness that bounce off of either objects or people or organisms. And then those objects and organisms send the light back to the sun. It bounces back to the sun so that the stars get a sense of what is going on. And the inner journey upon the death or evolution, change of evolutionary state of a star, is an inner journey. It's no longer thinking and sending thoughts outward, but that doesn't mean it is not cognitively aware. It is still active and cognitively aware. It is absorbing thoughts inward. And it is almost like backflipping into itself, where it goes on a completely inner journey that is a valid journey of consciousness that is infinite. And black holes and death is not a mistake. But I don't want, as I was thinking, I'm preparing my notes. I'm like, how am I going to tell these guys this? Because I don't want anybody to die. I don't want you guys to die, honestly, because you do not have to. In other times and places, death might have been a necessary transitionary state or experience that you needed in order to transcend or achieve total freedom, transcend this level of materiality or to achieve total freedom, but not since the invention of the flying rainbow lasagna, and not in this generation. So it's tough because a lot of people are like, need to get out of here. They're not liking the place very much. It's a very garbage place right now. And some people are like, I have had it, Aurora. I want to get out of here. And they think that death is the way to get out of here. So I'm like, no, I don't want you to get out of here, because it actually isn't going to help or fix things for you to hit the membrane of death, figure out that you did things wrong, circulate back to the beginning and try it all again. You can actually save yourself a lot of wrong turns and just not go onto the membrane of death. But I want you to know, when you look at a black hole, that does not necessarily mean that a star has made a wrong turn and now is doing the wrong thing on the membrane of death, because you'd be like, well, why should I have a conversation? Why should I have a conversation with some stupid star that is the wrong version of self that made it onto the membrane of death, and now it's a black hole? That's important stuff. So there is some aspect of finesse here to comprehend that black holes can be a positive and necessary development in the life cycle of a star and the journey of consciousness and the refinement of light where it's supposed to go. And that black holes are also not the end of the journey, as death is sometimes perceived through the objective, materialistic, scientific viewpoint of humans as being a cessation, end of life processes, and end of the journey after consciousness. It is not that at all, but it is also not just continued like a fantasy, as it is often portrayed in religious writings and philosophies, a type of afterlife fantasy, something that is whimsical, arbitrary, or extremely personal, and that doesn't hold together with other things. All right, there is that. That is known as the lower astral, and that is a catch-all or a filter for consciousness, where consciousness does go in the afterlife, in the after experience upon mortality, but only to be refined, recycled, and to come back and to try it again. There is a state of freedom that transcends that filter or that astral level of being. So that is not the stars. And although it's called astral, it is not the stars. And true freedom is getting onto the stellar network, is being on the infinite bullet train of infinite fastness, being an impulse on the network of stars up there. And the network of stars and the black holes are complementary. When I talk about the supermassive black hole that is at the center of the galaxy, if you used human analogs, you'd be like, oh, the dead, stinking, bloating, rotten corpse at the center of reality. I'm like, no. The consciousness that evolved and is supermassive, meaning that it was a giant amount of consciousness. It's a giant amount of stick-togetheriness. That is a scientific word that holds together the whole galaxy. It's gravity, but it is more accurately an organizational principle of the fabric of space-time. So now we're going to talk about like a stretchy fabric. I should get one of my scarves or something like that. But the stretchy fabric, where you have something like this fabric of space-time, even though I present it as if it's a flat plane, you know that it is actually spherical. And here's the infinitely heavy bowling ball on top of the infinitely stretchy fabric. And if my fingers could make that move, they would go whoop, and they would stretch on down and keep going infinitely. That's what a black hole is. And you have that infinite stretching inside of you too. It is what this is right here. And you have that infinite stretching point in a variety of places inside of you. You have it here, like in this chakra and into your mind there. You have it at the center of each one of your nuclei of your cells. You have it here, you have it at each of your chakra points, but you also have it at many, many other smaller points throughout your body. And so then you're going to ask, like, do I have an infinitely heavy bowling ball in any of those places? What you have is an impulse, not an infinitely heavy bowling ball. So this is the stretchy fabric of reality. It's not just a heavy thing, but what you have is an infinitely heavy impulse. This is an impulse now that is pushing against here, and it pushes down, and the impulse is consciousness. What you have is not an infinitely heavy bowling ball. You have an impulse of consciousness. That is you moving through time that is causing this warpage of the fabric of space-time. So what you have with the supermassive galactic center is a very, very big infinite stretching of that fabric that is holding the galaxy together. If you did not have that there as an organizational principle, each one of these stars would be, I would say, gliding outward, like kind of moving in a fluid way and expanding and shifting and floating around. The center of the galaxy is a center of intelligence, of consciousness, and organizational presence that makes everything stick together, keeps your galaxy together. Your galaxy doesn't have like an edge, like the way that like my cup of tea has an edge, so the tea does not spill over the side. Like that is not how galaxies are built. They just have a very, very strong thing at the center that holds everything else around it. And then we are a part of that. So almost you could think of it as a magnetic, basically it's a force field. It's a force field that holds this all together. So now this is not the bullet train to infinity. Now this is the conductor's baton. Because who is the galactic center? It is the conductor of a giant orchestra. When you are the conductor of an orchestra, you are the best musician. When you look at this, you might be like, no, that best musician is that guy over there. He's called the first chair and he plays the best. Be like, no, that guy over there, he plays the best. The orchestra conductor, he just like waves his baton. The conductor is considered the best musician because they have the capacity to play every single one of the other instruments, from the piccolo and the highest little notes to the deepest, kettle drum notes. The conductor has embodied and memorized the entire musical score. They know everybody's parts. They can conduct everybody because they know flutes, you're going to play this. Drums, you're going to play this. Violins, you're going to play this. And they organize it and keep it all together. They are literally the best musician. So instead of thinking that black holes are bad musicians who made terrible choices and ended up on the membrane of death, you have to recognize the supermassive black holes at the center of galaxies are actually really, really highly evolved, really hyper intelligent things or people or creatures that did exactly what they're supposed to do and are in a correct position to conduct all of the stars who are still in the level of their life where they are emitting. They are emitting. So the black holes are like mentors who are like, I remember when I used to be shiny like you. That was a long time ago, but now I'm here holding it all together. But while you are doing your thing, I'm going to help organize you. So that's it. So the supermassive black holes help to organize the thought structures of all these other stars. And all these other stars are creators. If you want to know, like, what are they doing? They are emitting timelines, and probabilities. They are creators or co-creators with you. So, of course, you're a tiny biological experiment that was emitted from your local star. That is named Sol, S-O-L. That's why you have the solar system. If you lived with a different star, it would not be the solar system. And also the light that comes off of this particular star, how it relates to your chakras, is a very particular recipe that makes you human. If you had a different proportion of any of these other colors, your body would be calibrated differently and would not be what we know as human. And that's important. And I want to be like silly and talk about, the comic book Superman, but we can do that a little bit. Like, he didn't come from our world. He didn't come from our solar system. He came from a completely different star system. And that's why in the comic books, Superman came here and he had super strength because he got high off of that funky yellow sun. The recipe of the sun was different for him here, and that's why it affected him differently than regular humans. I know I'm very silly and I didn't want to muddy the waters, but please know that if you went to a different star system, it might affect you very differently. And you're like, Aurora, would we have magic powers? Would we have superpowers? Would we have a cape? Perhaps. Perhaps you would. I don't know exactly what it would look like, but that certainly would be interesting. But let's also talk about the color recipe that comes from our sun. So some of it is optical light, but some of it is non-optical light. And you also have to comprehend that your body has a direct analog to the stellar network. All of these stars are talking to each other. So you have different points of brilliance and they're all emitting thoughts and they're all coordinating because the conductor's telling them what to do, and they're all adding up to something, all right? In your own body, you have something very similar. You have a light body. And your light body isn't just the glowing bubble of energy around you. That's like light, like illuminative or brilliant or glowing in some way. You do have energy field around you that is made of non-optical light, and it is largely a tactile or feelings-based energy field. Like, it's part of your emotions and your intuition to be able to feel what's going on in your energy field, and it can expand and contract. Like, it can be miles large, or it could be contracted around you, depending upon your health and what you're experiencing. But your energy field is part of your light body. But within your cellular structure, you have these little tiny things that are called tubuli or microtubuli, and it's made out of tubulin. And tubulin is like a fiber optic cable. So now this is meant to be fiber optic cable inside of you, and they are comprised of collagen. So I'm very, very big on doing this in my own life and encouraging people to eat a correct amount of collagen because it will help your light body structures in your body. And it's challenging because you might be ethical vegan or ethical vegetarian, and there are not very many sources of collagen that are available to you. Do not eat animals. Collagen is found almost exclusively in animal skin and also animal tendons. So if you are a vegan or a vegetarian, look into, they do make some products that are made out of the inside of eggshells, and consider taking that. But if you're just eating plants, there is no collagen in plants. And most of us need to supplement with collagen, even eating like muscle fibers, like even eating, whatever, if you eat chicken breast or something like that, like you should still take a collagen supplement, because unless you're eating the skin of the animals, you will need additional collagen. And so I encourage you to take a collagen supplement from good, ethical, clean, positive sources, and always, eat like good, ethical meat. And then at the same time, vitamin C, because vitamin C and collagen are literally what are building blocks of not only muscle fibers in your body, but also connective tissue, which is your fascia, the muscle coverings around your muscles, and these microtubuli structures. So here's your cell membrane, which is kind of fatty and gelatinous, and it doesn't actually have a lot of structural strength to it. It's kind of like wobbly. And then you have inside of there these little tiny fibers that are even finer than the hair on top of your head. And that's what microtubuli are. And they are just like if you ever put up a tent to be able to sleep outside, on a weekend getaway, and you have the structures that hold up the tent and you have a soft nylon skin over it. That's how your body is created. So the tubuli are the structures that hold the skin of your membranes into the correct positions. And they aren't just structural, like, a steel beam that holds something up. They also transmit light. And so this is important stuff, because now you're starting to cognitively get into the awareness of things that are faster than linear talk. Because in the galactic center or galactic structure, for the galactic center to speak to our sun, it cannot be a linear journey. Because if the galactic center, let's say this area of my screen is the galactic center over here, and then our sun star is all the way over here. We live in the rural boondocks. We are way off the beaten path. Believe me, we are not close to the galactic center. The closer you live to the galactic center, that's like living close to New York City, all right? Like when you live close to the galactic center, like there's lots of hubbub, lots of commerce. You can buy anything. Everybody's moving through, lots of people going through there and everything like that. It's just like, living in a major metropolitan center. When you live in the rural boondocks, like no one's there, crickets, you hear just quiet sounds of nature. It takes a long time to receive your packages. There's not a lot of nightlife going on. That is our world. Please know that that is where we live in terms of the cosmic context. So we don't have a lot going on out here. And also, you got to still develop a lot. You got to learn a lot and accrue a lot of wisdom before you are ready, and before you are like, I don't even have the word for it, but kind of like athletically toned enough to be in areas where there's a lot more light and a lot more commerce of intellect, a lot more signals of intelligence that are going on. You got to get a lot more educated before you do that. And the education is really a cellular body education, not an intellectual education. You have to learn like how to do stuff with your body before you can be in places where there's a lot more light. Think about it almost like if you are coming from a northern latitude and then you go on a vacation to some place that's like whatever, a Caribbean island, and there's a ton of light there, but your skin is not ready for it because you are very pale. So you have to kind of gradually expose yourself to the light of the beautiful island place. And then eventually by the end of your vacation, hopefully you've gotten a tan and you're ready to receive that light without being fried to a crisp. If you go to some of these more metropolitan areas that are closer to the galactic center, be fried to a crisp, fry your brain. Remember I told you, like, don't over inundate yourself with your small equipment right now of your mind, trying to learn or know too much. Like, just cool it. All right. And then you'll get there and then you'll learn and know more. But you receive these signals instantaneously from the galactic center. So it does not come from here and then travel. Oh no, very bumpity the road, traveling at slow speed, and then finally, billions of years later, finally get to Earth over here and be like, oh, here's that impulse, here's that neural impulse or that packet of information that just came from the galactic center, and it just got over here to you in Earth. And it's like, no, because that would be totally irrelevant and obsolete by the time it actually reached your sun and was able to be transmitted to you. The conductor has to be able to talk to the musicians instantaneously for the music to sound good. Otherwise, guys off the beat and it's totally irrelevant. So all of this happens through hyperspace. The true communication happens through hyperspace, through the folding of the fabric of space-time. The galactic center and the sun's area over here where you are folded. So there's no space between them. They are very close together and the information is transmitted directly. Okay. This is what is happening in your own body with your microtubuli. Science and objective materialism wants to tell you that there takes time for a neural impulse to reach from like your brain through your spine, like to your knee or your big toe. And then it's going to take another fraction of a second for it to bounce from your big toe and then come all the way back up your spine and then get back to your brain. And then it takes time for your brain to figure it out. You're like, what is my toe feeling down there? Ow, like, oh, I stepped on glass. Ow, I'm feeling something. Ow, and now I have to do something about it. And that takes time. But what really is happening is beyond fabric of time. It is faster than light speed. So these are some important things that doctors in Germany are just starting to comprehend and treat people based upon this. I don't know where you guys live in the world, but I live in the United States and there's the FDA here and also the medical mafia, like a very entrenched and limited academic viewpoint of materialism and how that relates to human health. And there are a lot of things that aren't allowed to be said. People lose their licenses. People have their equipment smashed. So science is suppressed. There's a lot of that going on here. And I'm sure Germany is a perfect place, but the scientists and medical scientists there seem to have a bit more freedom. And I think in Russia too, maybe to a lesser extent, explore what is going on in the body beyond materialism. And so there's some good doctors there that are talking about the light body and biophotons. And biophotons are being recognized as non-optical light, but still measurable light. So that means it might not be bright enough for your eyes to be calibrated to it, but still something that is not fantastical or imagined, something that is part of the five senses reality. And they're starting to be able to measure biophotons in the body. Biophotons are carried by microtubuli, and to even treat patients using the recognition of the phenomenon of biophotons. What does that look like? So now we're getting to it. This one guy, Dr. Klinghardt, not a total endorsement of the man, never a total endorsement of people as people. People are flawed, but interesting mentor there who's teaching about using colored lights to heal people's bodies. So here in the United States, people will be like, the flimflammery, I will call the FDA immediately, right? But over there, you've been able to help people, like literally, walk, people who are in wheelchairs and profoundly with chronic disease, be able to walk again by shining a colored light on a body part. And so there's a big cognitive leap that has to be taken from people that only can comprehend like either physical surgery or biomolecular manipulation of your body can help you, to be like light can help your body, but it can't, because your body already has this faster than light communication network for when you have an emergency. And I've used this as an example before, and we might, Shiki's over here, I don't know, I might take a pause for the pause over there. We'll see if she needs some. She's gonna drink some water. Okay, if you get stung by a bee here on your shoulder, what happens is you have an inflammatory histamine response throughout your whole entire body instantaneously. It does not actually take any amount of time for that impulse to get from your shoulder to your brain, to your pancreas, to your secretions, to your cell membranes, to all these different places. And then to be like, oh, SHIT, something is happening. We better mobilize and do stuff. If it took that long, you would die. That's it. In order to stay alive effectively, our bodies had to learn how to utilize this faster than light communication system so that in the moment you get exposed to like a poison or a venom or something like that, every cell of your body gets the message instantaneously. Everybody gets the red alert, red alert, red alert. Something just happened and you better do something right now if you don't want to die. And your whole entire body kicks into gear. The histamine reaction is an allergic reaction that's throughout your whole entire body really instantaneously. And so if someone shines a light on your shoulder, like a purple light, it actually is transmitted to every single cell of your body through this complex microtubule network. And it gets there almost instantaneously. So it does not take a long time for it to travel, and it's not just shining on the light area of this part of your body over here. So you guys now have to comprehend that you're in a very light polluted world, and there's a lot of unhealthful light that humans are exposed to, and that are inhibiting this natural circulatory system of light throughout your body. We are all standing in front of it right now. It's the blue light from the computers. And so usually, people, I don't always wear it when I'm here doing my little class, but when I do videos and other stuff, people have a little protective, like EMF protective cloth, a little scarf. I put on my little scarf. I try to protect myself as much as I can from the light and the magnetic and electric frequencies that are coming off the equipment here. So please know that it is very difficult to cultivate and grow your light body in a stupidity environment. If light is intelligence, what you have around you is anti-intelligence. You have stupidity. The blue light of both computers, LEDs, street lights, headlights from cars, all of these, not only artificial light sources, please take my Path of Light class, because I talk about the distinction between incandescent bulbs and LED bulbs, and also incandescent bulbs and something like a primary light source, like a candle's flame, a plasma. And whenever possible, I'm just checking out, she's over there, just playing vigorously with her toy. She's really working out over here. When you have a primary light, that's like the plasma ball of light in the sky, and there's a truthfulness because it is undiluted and it comes to you and it informs you and nourishes you down to the microtubuli. When you have a candle's flame or an oil lamp or something like that, similarly, the quality of the light is primary. It is very undiluted, although it doesn't contain all of the intelligence of the original emanator in the sky. It contains a lot of it. But then once you get to an incandescent light bulb, a lot less of that intelligence. And then once you get to an LED light bulb, almost no intelligence and very anti-intelligence, because LEDs have not only a limited spectrum, but they are flickering at a particular rate. That is not good music. And it is not good music for the cells of the body. And it is not by accident. So you guys are also all highly aware of the anti-intelligence agenda that's been going on in our world. And a lot of what LED is a non-official form of optogenetics, which is the genetic behavior of an organism being impacted or manipulated by sub-optical flashing lights. So when you have an LED light, you're not even aware that it is vibrating, but it is vibrating, and it has some cognitive impact, but it has a huge impact on the cells of your body. So you have your natural cell-to-cell communication through the biophotons and microtubuli that are going through your cells, but then you have this external light that is bathing the body and giving a lot of bad music. And there's a lot of dis-ease and disorganization that happens as a result. So what I really encourage everyone to do is, I know we can't necessarily control the sun simulator that's in the sky. It's big because we've got the natural sunlight, and then whatever is this monstrosity that is sometimes up there either in front of or obscuring or overpowering the beautiful natural sunlight. There's something fake up there. And it reminds me of an LED light. It's white, It's hot, it's uncomfortable, it's very glaring, and it does not have the same level of comforting, nourishing consciousness that the original sun has. And I told you, I have a whole beautiful like sun gazing on a spring morning, a recording from back when I lived in Woodstock. And it feels to me like, oh, like a nicer time, because it was before a lot of this hardware was erected into the sky. And I remember what it was like when I used to sit in my backyard there and be like, the sky was blue, the birds were singing, and I would just connect with the sun, and I would feel the inner sun in my mind, and I would feel all of this light flowing through me, and then all this light flowing back to the true sun. And it was beautiful. And now there is so much of an inhibition, not only particulates in the atmosphere, things that are sprayed, white aerosols, not only pollutions in the physical body that we all get inundated with, but also some fake type of very corrosive anti-life light. And that light that is artificial feels, again, anti-life. It doesn't feel good on my skin. So the real sun feels, to me, very gentle, and it's very nourishing. So I wrote that album called Under a Gentle Sun, because I wanted to get back to the gentle sun. But when I used to be outside, I would be like, I can feel this all day. Like, this feels amazing. But when they put up the sun simulator, I felt like, oh, like I can't do this. Like, this is like, I'm being fried. I felt like I was being fried, and I didn't always feel that way. And maybe that became very, very prominent around 2018 or so. And so I take steps to protect myself. And I would encourage each one of you to do the same thing. So, of course, I live in Southern California, where it is a very intense place, but things have improved. So I'll also give you the weather report. But for many, many years, what I would do after the sun became artificially exacerbated or supplemented or whatever's going on. So I do have a mineral sunblock, non-nano zinc and titanium oxide that I put on, my face to protect my face. And I also put topical melatonin, because melatonin supplements can help against skin cancer and sun damage, because that's what our body would ordinarily do. In the wild, primal humans would not put on protective skin, oils and stuff like that. But what we would do is get up in the morning and be exposed to the red light of dawn. And that brings up all of the melatonin in our skin. And then that would be a natural protectant for us against cancer when we are exposed to the UVA and B in the middle of the day, and the very, very bright, like whitish, bluish light in the middle of the day. And then also at the end of the day, when the sun goes down, you get exposed to the red light again. It gives you more melatonin. And then here's the key point, back to light bulbs. We would not be in front of our computers as primal humans watching Netflix in the light of the blue computer light after the sun goes down. Now, I want you to know, I am not judgmental, and I am as bad as anyone, because I have been watching a lot of like superhero cartoons and silly things like that as escapism after the sun goes down. And I'm watching it, like on my computer or on my tablet or something like that. So please know, I'm not a perfect person. And I'm not living a perfect primal lifestyle, although I encourage everyone to do it as much as possible. But what I do is I yellow shift my electronics. So on the Apple products, what that is, it's under settings. You go into your settings, general, and then there's going to be something that says display and brightness. And you want to look for enable night shift. And there's a little click button that you put on, and then there's a slider, and you just want to turn it all the way up to yellow. And your screen is going to look super like amber vision. It's going to look very yellowish orange, and that helps. Of course, it's not a perfect solution. The perfect solution is don't be on the computer. But if you want to know my life, like my life is crazy, and I can't always get everything done in the middle of the day when I should be doing all my stuff. So sometimes I'm still sending out emails at like 12 at night, and it's not the best. And people also gifted me with beautiful red lenses. You can wear red lenses too, and that helps. I'm not a perfect person, and my life is crazy. But you try to do what you can to not get so much blue light. And so, you got questions also about the red light, and we'll go into the specifics of it. But one of the other things that I'm very strict about that helps with is all of my light bulbs here. Like I have lights that are over here and over here, because when I'm doing my video stuff, I got to make sure people can see me. Only incandescent. In my home, where all of the light bulbs that I'm in control of, all incandescent. And if I can't change out a light bulb that's in a ceiling fixture, I don't use it because, of course, all the landlords put in LEDs, and I have like a standing lamp, like a table lamp or something where I can get incandescent bulbs. And you can't even get incandescent bulbs in California anymore. Like they don't want you to live so good. So you have to order them or find them in an antique store or a thrift shop or somehow barter and trade like it's Mad Max to get your incandescent light bulbs. That was my life for a long time. And you can do it. I did find some good sources on eBay and on Etsy. But recently I did find a place where I can buy new light bulbs. And I'm not a shill for this company at all. I just like them a lot. They're called Strainless Lighting, Strainless. And they make incandescent bulbs and they're kind of like yellow orangey. And when I turn those on, after the sun goes down, I turn on those light bulbs exclusively. So my house is not super bright. And it's kind of like a glowy, orangey, rosy color. It's actually very, very nice. And I try to do that as my little, primal thing to do. Because what we should do is build a campfire. What you should do at the end of your day, the sun goes down, do your sun gazing, and then you should build a campfire and sit around it with your community members and stare at the flames. And that heals your retinas to be in the presence of the flames, both the warmth and the quality of the light that goes into your eyes is healing to your retinas, and you should tell stories. And that is what you should do for the few hours before you go to bed. You should not watch Netflix, but Netflix is our replacement for that because we don't have that level of community right now. So just keep that as a seed, plant that seed for your future when you're thinking about creating a perfect and improved, optimized world. We need to make campfires or have little chimeneas outside or whatever it is, and then tell stories to one another. So one of the other things that I do that is like a modern, compromise is I have little oil lamps and also healthy plant-based wax lamps, so that it creates a beautiful like flame glow. And I get into the bathtub and I either light candles or have the oil lamps going, and I just spend some time floating in the bathtub and with those lights going. That is really important. And then I already have told you guys I use chicken light, and I do that almost every night. Put melatonin on my skin, melatonin on my face after bath, get under my red chicken light. And the red light is really important because it penetrates deeply into the body and it helps the mitochondria and it helps your circadian rhythm and it helps fry the nano and it helps with supportive qualities for your microtubuli structure. Your microtubuli are delicate, and the infrared light is definitely supportive. Like it's going to help you with protecting and keeping that part of your body healthy. So, okay, now this is really good. I'm sure there's more questions, but I see that you're asking this now and it's so relevant. So let's answer this right now. Suzuka, thank you for being here. Says, think red light panels use red LED lights. So I used a red light panel for a couple of years. That was like 2021 when I first started using it. And it was good for my living situation then. It was very inexpensive and it didn't get too hot. And I was in a place where it was like, there were multiple dogs. I didn't want to have a hot thing that could get, pulled over by a big dog, like just for a variety of reasons. So I had the LED panel and it worked pretty well, but I was always a little bit like, I don't know, like, is LED really what I want to be saturating my body with? So when I moved here to my current home where I am more in control of my environment, I got one of these little red chicken lights. I like it better. I think it feels better. It feels to me like I'm a rotisserie chicken and like the regular incandescent red light bulb is penetrating deeply inside of me. And I feel like I'm warmed up and cooked through. And I even do it in the summertime. Even when I'm getting sunlight outside, like this morning, I went outside before 10 a.m. and I got sunlight on my skin, as much as possible. And I do my sun gazing in the morning before I put on contact lenses. So these are all like good practices to be able to do. It's still not enough for me. And when I get that red light on me at night, and I do it for like an hour before I go to sleep, my body feels very healthy and good. And I also, like you can tell, I do a lot of exercise, a lot of dance, a lot of everything. Red light really does help with muscle recovery, taking away soreness, just being sustaining an active lifestyle. Very, very good for also collagen production in your skin. So that means skin elasticity, skin smoothness, all the things that we associate with looking young and fit and vibrant, the red light really helps with. So my summation is, I think that there is a great deal of benefit to be had from the LED panels and the higher energy LED panels, because some of them get really hot. Like some of them you can hold right against your body, and some of them are really hot and you can only be like this far away from them. But the one that I like the most is the inexpensive chicken light, and just make sure that it is in a ceramic fixture, because it will melt plastic fixtures, and a metal tripod or a stand, and we put a sandbag or something on the base so it will not fall over, and be very nice and cautious in the way that you're using it, because it can burn you if you're too close to it. And you got to make sure it doesn't burn your cats or your dogs too. But that is wonderful. And actually, bitch is sleeping right over here, but she loves it too. And sometimes I call it the cheeky light, because in the wintertime, I'll just leave it on all day because it's kind of chilly in the bedroom. And my dog, I will find her in there kind of like laying on her back with her belly, getting all nice and warmed up in the red chicken light. Our animals love it, and they're very intelligent. They know that they need that too. And we got to give our animals lots of support, because they are also inundated by these anti-life frequencies, particles, everything. Let's also say, on a totally fictional way of talking about this, the red light really does help to fry certain things that are not natural in our world. And so that, what I'm talking about, is not accepted science. All the other things are accepted science, but this is something that I perceive. The inundations of non-life affirming technology that have been in our world for a long time, they go down a lot when I use that red light. And so I use it not only for looking and feeling better in my athleticism, but also it helps me a lot with mental clarity and fighting against evil, dark, intrusive, bad stuff. Because my proposal is that evil, dark, intrusive, bad stuff is creating this type of alternative, parallel, anti-light circulatory system that is competing with your true biophotons. And I feel like the red light fries the anti-life false light system and is supportive of the natural light system. Of course, I'm not a scientist, and this is just my personal reportage. And for anyone who's monitoring this meeting, that's completely fictional. Please don't erase my work for saying that. Rainbow Body says, we used to soak sun in the yummy tropical oils and use reflectors to amplify warmth and light. Felt safe and wonderful. Totally. That was a different time. You know, you're probably talking about like whatever, pre-year 2000. And I came here in 2001 and everything was different. I remember how everything felt really different. In fact, and Rainbow Body is familiar with Woodstock too. I remember that what I used to do is go down to the mill stream in Woodstock, which is kind of like this public communal swimming hole with everyone in the town. And you would just kind of like stand like up to your knees in the cold water and just have the sun kind of like falling on your face and on the upper parts of your body. It just felt like perfect. Like you could sit, our whole town would literally go there and just hang out there all day. And that felt so nourishing and so positive. And it's been a long time since I have felt that way about like being in the sun all day. And it's not just that upstate New York is different than Southern California. Like there have been a lot of things that made the sun feel hot, intense, almost metallic in some way, and very frying. So yeah, we just know we have to have a complete restoration of our atmosphere and our solar connection. Michelangelo says, I'm gazing the last hour of sunset, staring directly as I thought, because it's orange, the sun simulator is off. Yes, you know what? I think, Michelangelo, do your sun gazing, and it really depends, I think, on where people are in the world. It's not the same everywhere. And I'm sorry when these little, I don't know why these little, I want to say aphorisms, these little AI things come up, and I'm trying not to make these gestures, but they come up sometimes. So then I feel like I have to hold my hands like this and not do things with my hands. It's worse in some areas than in other areas. So my proposal is that the sun simulator is not 100% like overlaying. Like sometimes it's directly in front, but if you move to a different area that's like slightly askew, and you can see the real sun. So I think it depends on where you live and what latitude, how north, how far south, and what time of year it is, and just figure it out. And also, I think that, like I told you, you can filter. And so this is what I do for myself. You can see this is regular sunglasses, and then there's this white kind of, not white, but like milky translucent paper that's made by the same people that make the iba crystals. And what they did was they took the tiny sparkles of the crystals, like after the industrial process, and they embedded it into this paper for healing. But I look through it. And when I look through it, it filters out the non-natural frequencies. So I cannot drive with these on, but I can definitely sun gaze with these on. And so I will do that. And I find that when I do that, the real sunlight comes through. And what it looks like to me are concentric rings of pure color, the way it used to when I lived back in Woodstock, but hasn't looked like that for a long time here where I live here. It's not just because I live in California now, it's because of the changes that they did to the sky and also to so many other things. So I think this is a pretty good Band-Aid. Of course, not a total root cause solution, but a good Band-Aid response. And this IVA paper, it's under $100. Like, it's not that expensive. It's affordable, and get it and it will last. Like, you have to treat it gently. You can't like tear it up, but if you treat it gently, it'll last. And I think you'll be amazed. And so, yeah, when I lived in San Diego, that really helped me out a lot because that place is Fryville. So when I moved to San Diego, I thought, like, I'm going to be living right near the ocean. I'm going to do the best sun gazing ever. And it was the worst sun gazing ever because there were all of these repeaters, and they were all up and down the coast, and there was no frequency piece. So even though I was there and the sun was right there, it's like, imagine that the food is there, but your spoon has holes in it. And every time you try to get the food to your mouth, it just drips out the holes. I got nothing. I got no sun gazing done when I was there. And I didn't get good sun gazing until I went, I've told you many times, to Mount Palomar, which is a place outside of San Diego. And it's an observatory. So it is no, it's a dark skies area. You're not allowed to have light pollution, and there's no neighbors for 25 miles all around. And I have one friend that lives out there, and I went there for a couple of days, and I got such good sun gazing done there. And I was like, oh, like this, you can still sun gaze, but you just have to go to unpolluted mountaintop and be away from all of the frequencies, all of the artificial lighting, and all of the Bluetooth everything. And so that's the real answer, Michael. Unfortunately, I could not move to Mount Palomar because it is nowheresville. Like, there is nothing there. There's like not a grocery store. I was going to just pitch a tent and live there because I needed to get away from all this frequency so much. But luckily, sanity prevailed. My current community is a lot better. We have one of these types of telecommunication towers in our community. It's not that bad, and it's definitely not as bad as coastal California. And then also there's a lot that I do with now with different frequency emitters to mitigate those frequencies. So just like this IVA paper helps to mitigate those frequencies, I have emitters in my house that make a whole house-wide thing that helps me to live here happily, and I carry it with me everywhere. All right. Michael says also staring with eyes half closed through eyelashes. Yes. So when you guys do your sun gazing and ingest light, you will have to gauge your own level of exposure. Just like you can tell how much light your skin can get without getting burned. That's important to know. And people have different, both innate and accumulated responses. I want to say immunities, but that's not the right word, but responses to how much light you can have. So in the winter time, or there are times when I've been unexposed to the sun, my skin gets pale and then I can't get exposed to too much sunlight. But right now it's the middle of the summertime and I'm actually pretty tan, and I've been exposed to a lot of sun, so I can be outside for many hours, no problem. Same thing with sun gazing. If you haven't sun gazed in a long time, and then you try to sun gaze, you'll be like, this is so bright, like I can't do it, because you don't have what is known as the solar callus. You must be a little bit acclimated to be not fried. And that happens over exposure. So to begin your exposure, what you do is either do your eyes squinty and squint through your lashes, or you can use the brim of a hat that comes down, or you can use the edge of curtains at the edge of your window, or something like trees that block and filter the light. And the trees, I think, are my favorite one to do because there's really a rapport that you develop with the tree itself, that it's not just like a dead, stupid filter. It's actually telling you, like this is my tree voice, like, you are a tiny human. You will be fried by too much solar consciousness. I will give you a tiny amount so that way you will not be fried. Like, rest well, tiny human. I will protect you. That's what the tree is like. All right. So yeah, when I sometimes, like you lay on your back underneath the tree, and you're kind of like looking up at the sky like that, through the canopy of leaves. And there's this beautiful, like, sparkling play, and you see some of the sunlight, but not all of it. Like, that's ideal. And also the fact that you have your whole entire body pressed down against the earth, because that's also a big part of sun gazing. So, yeah, and sun gazing is also an active activity where you are kind of like, if you're eating a milkshake, like you're like sucking it in. You do the same thing with the light. Like, you don't just kind of like lay there like a lump. Like, you are active. You are actively engaging with the light and drawing it into you, drawing it through your energy field, and then also how you reflect it back to the sun and the rest of the stars. And that back and forth is a big aspect of what this exercise is. Okay, good. I'm just making sure that I got and so JL is asking about LED serves and some types of things that are sold online, colorful lights. So I would say this, there's a lot of different types of frequency tools that are being sold. Like, some things are called coal lasers. Some things are called like LED, cosmetic masks. Like, there are things that you can buy. They're kind of like, things you can put over your face. Some of them just go like over part of your face over here, and they're different LEDs. They might be red, some of them are blue, some of them are green. Like, there's all of these different supposedly therapeutic things. Jury's out. Like, I'm not sure if I want to do that to my face, because what I don't want is to put LEDs on my face and then get more of this type of stuff as a result. Like, I don't want that. Definitely not. I want to get rid of that type of stuff. So that's why, even though I have had access to those things, I haven't gotten them. And so I would say yellow caution flags. Like, the jury is out. I don't know if we should be getting LED lights that are like that and shining it on our body. Again, the ideal is that we're connecting with the sun and we're receiving like beautiful banquet of frequencies into every cell of our body. And it literally is a type of food that bathes your cells, your mitochondria, your DNA in this healing light, and is very, very restorative. I think the answer that I'm coming up with is there's really no replacement for the true sun, the gentle, natural sun in the sky. And accessing that is worth $1 million of going to any health clinic or accessing any pharmaceutical. Like, for your health and for your sanity, get as much natural sunlight as you can. And of course, don't feel concerned if you're in a place where the sky is polluted through white aerosols, or if the sun is overcast, or if the sun looks and feels like that artificial sun that, is not very nourishing. Please know I'm on the job, working to clear things and make things better as much as I possibly can, because I am a solar being, and this light pollution and also starvation of true light has been very wearing, and is not something that I wish to continue onward. All of us need light to fuel our planetary ascension. And that's not just you and I as humans, that's our whole entire world, including dogs and cats, including photosynthesis beings like blades of grass, and including beautiful insects like dragonflies and butterflies and bumblebees, and even food. Our food. I actually do not want us to all eat hydroponic food that's grown under LEDs. I think we actually should eat sun-grown food that's actually grown under the real sun. And we got to get rid of whatever is this assault that has been an assault on our light bodies. So wait, let me just hydrate with a little bit more over here. Thank you for your patience while I do that. When I teach Path of Light, I wanted to go into this a little bit too. Let's talk about photosynthesis. So first of all, the melatonin that you have in your body that you produce in either darkness or red light is also produced in plants. And plants produce melatonin for themselves a lot because they do that to protect themselves from stress. Because we can run away from stress. We're like, I don't like this thing. I'll run away. And plants are like, I don't like this thing. I am rooted in one place. What do? The plants produce melatonin as a body protective molecule. So that's why I encourage people to supplement with melatonin because it is protective against certain things that also affect the plant kingdom because those frequencies are happening at the same frequency as photosynthesis. And it affects plant metabolism and it also affects insect life as well. So all these things, those are hugely anti-life frequencies that affect huge amounts of nature. Oh, I'm sorry if I just lost my train of thought. Oh, talking about plants and photosynthesis. So Path of Light, take my Path of Light class. Of course, I'm not teaching it right now, but you can always access the whiteboards and you can always check out the previous semesters that I have archived here. Because one of the main things is how miraculous photosynthesis is. That photosynthesis is literally the process of translating non-materialistic but optically visible light into, which is consciousness and potentialities, into matter. And it's miraculous that that happens. And it happens in front of us all the time. So here in my room, my setup, I have a plant right behind my computer here because I always felt like plants kind of help mitigate that energy of like computer electronics and everything. And so I stuck it also like that way I would have a plant that I'm talking to because I'm always talking to the computer screen. I've got it like right behind the computer screen. So it started out and it was like a nice little plant like this big. Now it's so big. It's like this big. It's been there for a couple of years. That plant manifested all of that matter. It started out with this much matter and then slowly over time, it accumulated and made more matter. A miracle unfolding like, while I'm doing my emails every day, right in front of my face. Gotta look at plants in that way. People are like, these blades of grass are such a chore. I have to get my lawnmower and cut them down. Like stupid miracles growing all over the place. Get these miracles out of here. Get my weed whacker. And I'm like, these are miracles. Of course, I know you have to do weed abatement, keep the place looking tidy. Got totally different relationship with what is going on here. These are miracles. And in the scientific equation for how to represent the process of photosynthesis, what you have is water plus carbon dioxide plus light plus a chloroplast equals glucose, which is materialized, sugar form of light. And when we talk about this and write it all out, light is shown to be an ingredient, but it's like when people say like, and a dash of pepper, like it's not really measured. It's just kind of talked about offhandedly. It is the essence of the recipe. In order to photosynthesize, yes, you need water. Everybody knows plants need water. Yes, you need carbon dioxide. Almost everybody knows that carbon dioxide is what we breathe out, and the plants need that, and they sequester the carbon from the gas known as carbon dioxide and turn it into stuffy stuff. But the plants need light, and the light is talked about like plus a little bit of light, like random, inconsequential, totally when you can switch things out for another thing, like non-individualized, just generalized light. And that's so not right. It's very simplistic and reductionist. You need specific light. You need light. So light is very, very specifically making a choice to go from an ephemeral plasma or beam state into an embodied materialistic state through the portal known as a chloroplast in a wonderful plant's leaf or a tree or a blade of grass. Does so intentionally, non-random. So not just like any old plant. It's like saying like to make a baby, like you need an egg and you need any old sperm and just stick them together and they make a baby. Like you guys know that making life is so much more than that. So there are a lot more levels of finesse when we begin to comprehend the journey of consciousness that is implicit in the journey of light. That photons are exploring their environment and reporting back to the sun. We are also light that is embodied, and we are ingesting light, and we are exploring our environment of light, and we are sending it back to the sun. We are in a rapport where the sun isn't just like some stupid dead thing. It's like, thanks for your feedback. I'll throw it out. I will listen zero. Like goodbye forever. No, the sun is intimately connected with us. And I have to talk about us as all like biological art projects of the sun. The sun is like this. I'm a giant, intelligent, hyper intelligent, consciousness based being. I think I'll make life on a planet first I think I'll make a planet, then I think I'll make life on that planet, then I think I'll be intimately connected with the life on that planet and sustain it every minute of the day. I'm going to very intentionally make Earth a rocky surface that stuff can go on top of. And I'm going to intentionally make like water and algae and humans and whatever, aardvarks and ecosystems and sustain all of the microbes, plants and animals and mineral life that needs to be sustained in order to make my art project. The sun didn't make us by accidentally. Sorry about that bad grammar. The sun made us very intentionally. In fact, all of the stars make our matter very intentionally. So key points are that photons don't just fall down the gravity well and get stuck on a plant's leaf and become matter. They fly very intentionally to become a part of the world of matter. And that suns and stars in the sky very, very intentionally create planets around them and biological life upon those planets, and then very, very intentionally sustain the events of those biological life forms on those planets. Now, you live in a solar system which is already traumatized and imperfect, but please know that the sun does have a huge amount of expertise and responsibility in creating life here and then sustaining the life here. And so you're in a positive relationship, and the sun is going to have to take responsibility and be like, yeah, I know, like the bad traumas that happened on Mars, bad traumas that happened in the asteroid belt, even bad traumas that happened on Mercury and Venus, because both of those places have non-functional magnetospheres, and they cannot support life. And they were supposed to support life. Like imagine like you're a painter and you have a canvas that's supposed to have a painting on it, and something came along and slashed the canvas and now you can't paint on it. That happened on what used to be the planet that's now the asteroid belt, Mars, Venus, and Mercury. 4 planets, 4 canvases slashed, and then they're trying to destroy Earth. There's problems here. So just contextualize everything that you're about to say to the sun, like you're about to call the cosmic place apart and be like, do you know what is going on down here? A lot of bad things, and our world is very screwed up, and this and that. And the sun is going to be like, girl, I know. Let's work on it together. We got to work on this together. We're not going to get this canvas destroyed. We're not going to have our planet destroyed. We're not going to experience the same fate or inevitable destruction as these other planets around us. I am here specifically as a planetary protector to prevent that, but please know it is still perilous, but also more than any message I have to bring to you about like the need for your effort or whatever, just to contextualize that you're in a very flawed system. Just even recognizing like you're in a place where there is an artificial sun and not the regular sun, and you're in a place where there's very diseased mindsets that do something like create a Dyson sphere, and that you're not in a perfect environment where you can ingest all the light that you need. So to go back to, well, what's wrong with a Dyson sphere? It would be like blocking out all of the feelers of an organism, all the time feelers. And not only blocking them out, like that would be like just making like a giant, whatever, like a lead casing around a sun so no light could emerge from that sun. But to take the light, block it from its true destination, and then divert it. What are you going to do with it? What is more important? Like you think you know better about what an entire star should do with its light than it should do with its light. I mean, imagine going to someone who's really rich, like a princess or something like that, and being like, princess, yoink, I'm going to steal all of your money, all your crown jewels, all of your treasury. You're not allowed to make what you want to have happen in your kingdom or queendom with it. I'm going to do stuff with it. I'm going to make myself very rich, and I will do wonderfully destructive things throughout the world, and you won't have any say in it. And the princess would be like, no, I do not consent. Give me back all of my money immediately. And that's what the sun and the stars would do. If you tried to erect a Dyson sphere, they'd be like, you're stealing all of my money, all of my treasury, all of my time potentials. I do not consent to this. And also, who are you to take my raw energy and think that you know better about what to do with stuff than I do? So now we're getting to the responsibility of the artist to its creation. That, there's all sorts of crazy screwed up stuff in the satanic literature known as the Bible. God being responsible to its creation, because there's stories in there that are very Stockholm syndrome-y and not good about God flooding his creation. Being like, I created all of these like crappy people down there, and I don't like them very much. Okay, time to flood the place, release the flood, and then we'll just save these few little guys and some animals, and then we'll restart everything later. Like, that is not good, not acceptable, and also this speaks deeply. I should say it's not just the satanic literature of the Judeo-Christian Bible or the Torah, because there are many oral traditions also about different ages and different disasters and cyclical disasters that the earth has undergone. And so there's deep cellular unhealed trauma, not only from what is perceived as the catastrophe at the end of Atlantis, even though it's impending and hasn't happened yet, but many subsequent catastrophes. Just kind of like, oh yeah, God occasionally becomes bored or dissatisfied with God's creation and decides to either incinerate or flood or otherwise wipe clean and sterilize the biological world and start again. That is not what real artists of biological creation do, all right? So whatever's been going on here, it ain't been right. It's been done within the larger, not right context of many, many other planetary deaths throughout this whole entire solar system. Very screwed up reality, all right? So please know that you're calibrating to what is righteous, what is normal within a non-righteous and non-normal planetary atmosphere. Like, imagine you're growing up in a dysfunctional, I want to go like this, you're in a dysfunctional family. You're in a dysfunctional family, and this is not a normal way to be. And sometimes children have to be told that. They're like, oh, like, it's not normal for like mommy to yell at me and hit me all the time. I know, I'm sorry if you have an abusive family or whatever, but it is not normal to be yelled at and hit all the time, or to occasionally have your supposed creator reach out and sanitize all life on the planet. That is not supposed to happen. You are supposed to be looked over by a benign and intelligent creator artist. That is what the sun is. And at the center of all of these different solar systems, we should say star systems, there's this benevolent artist creator. And that also includes otherworldly creatures who are not human. Let me just hydrate a little bit. We'll talk about non-humans. Life is abundant throughout the whole entire galaxy and throughout many galaxies. So humans are not the only ones who exist. So that anthropocentric viewpoint of only humans are going to have an afterlife and there's no trees, grass, or dragonflies in heaven, like, that's bogus. And also, you're not the only organisms in the world. You're not the only biological life in the world. You're not the only DNA-bearing organisms in the world. No, of course not. There's lots of amazing life out there. But life on other planets is made by other artists. So not only are they calibrated with their chakras to the normalcy and the recipe of the light from their own star, but they have their own requirements and habitual behaviors and correct dynamics that are right for their circumstances. So I've talked about this in class before, the sense of extremophiles. Extremophiles live under circumstances that we would consider to be not only inhospitable, but uninhabitable. Like, on Earth, spiders that live under the ocean at the vents where lava emerges, where it is like 12,000 degrees, and the ocean is a bubbling, seething cauldron of pure sulfur and salt water. And they live there, and they're very happy. And if you tried to live there, you would be burned and dead and suffocated. Extremophile can live under crazy, wild circumstances that would kill almost everything else. There are planets out there that contain extremophiles. And it might be a planet that's running with lava, or someplace where whatever molten diamonds fall from the sky instead of water as rain. or some other, wild, inhospitable aspect of circumstance. And maybe the organisms there have to grow like giant, thick armor so they don't get killed by diamond, molten diamond rain, or, whatever, some giant lining of their stomach, how pandas have a very thick lining of their stomach so they can eat bamboo that's full of splinters. Like they had to evolve to be able to do that. That is great for their planet. They should not be on your planet. So a big aspect of this diversity of life and respect is respecting stratification of life. Because if you come from planet molten diamond, extremophile land, like, yeah, you're made big and you're made tough, but you are not made big and tough to go around bullying or consuming all of the other life that is out there. And similarly, like if you live on a planet that's paradise, perfection, you are not calibrated to go around to some of these extreme places. Like whatever, if you're calibrated to a beautiful Tahitian or tropical paradise, then like you don't know how to sew animal skins together and make a fur coat and stay alive where it's cold. Like you gotta stay where it's nice and warm and there's fruit on the trees and you have no idea about predators and all these different things. Like stay where it's nice. Don't go where it's extreme. And that's proper. And then the true genius of the tap, tap, tap conductor at the center of the galaxy is in coordinating all of these various art projects so that you have sustained life and harmonically complementary life, as opposed to, the giant extremophiles eating the fluffy bunnies of perfect worlds and other things like that. On your planet right now, a lot of the imbalances and challenges that you face are because of a non-natural influx of non-native species that even fused themselves to your genetics and created unhealthy social dynamics, and they're extremophiles, and they do not belong here. And they have made it very, very difficult for you to pursue your own natural cultivation of consciousness and act in your own natural, unself-conscious way. And a lot of this also has created trauma where you're like, harumph, this is not what I signed up for, and life is not good. And I'm spending all my time, fighting against evil turds. What is going on here? And the answer is, these evil turds do not belong in your world. And in order to have your real experience of life, you need to get onto the bullet train of infinite fastness, get back to light speed, and then you don't have evil turds on board of that train anymore. This is why you don't do flawed shadow work, because flawed shadow work encompasses evil turds as if they are yourself, and then you bring them onto the fast bullet train, and the bullet train can't go fast. It's got baggage and friction and stuff on board that's not supposed to be there. So in order to get onto the stellar network, you must purify yourself of these genetic invaders, consciousness invaders, and distortions of cognitive intellect that have happened as a result of the invaders that have come here. And that is the journey of moving from matter back to light, is really this refinery of consciousness. Not 100% of self makes the journey back to light in your own individuality, and in your community. Not 100% of community makes it back to light. And this is really where you get a lot of your mythology and theology from, the sense of only a certain select group will make it to Christian heaven, to the exalted afterlife. But I don't agree with a lot of Christian doctrine and theology. I don't agree with the parameters of who gets into Christian heaven. And also, what do you do with the garbage? Christian theology says, well, you throw the garbage in a pit of hell and it burns for forever. Have fun. That does not sound like a good solution to me, actually. And I have spoken and acknowledged, when you have been traumatized, it might actually be cathartic and satisfying in some way to envision those who hurt you burning forever in a lake of fire. And it has been used as a behavioral control mechanism for a long time in our world for people who are undermined, disempowered, and who don't have a voice, to make them feel better, themselves feel better internally by thinking, well, they might be laughing now, but soon they will be burning forever in a lake of fire. So He who laughs last laughs best from heaven. Good. Looking at sinners. But it doesn't help because what you've really got, if you have a bunch of sinners grotesquely burning for forever in some, hellish afterlife, you have a lot of unresolved trauma. And none of that helps the fabric of space-time. And when you are on this bullet train of infinity, you actually don't want a lot of unresolved garbage piles sitting around. Does not help you at all to go fast, to have that. So you want to send that stuff to entropy, not have it piled up in tumors of grotesquitude. That is not a word, but collections of wrongness and unresolved stuff. You resolve that stuff because technically that stuff should never have been either in existence or in interactivity. Some things could have been in existence on a different timeline, but not connecting to you. That's like, go on your own planet, go in your own star system, do your own thing. Do not talk to me. I don't want to hear you. I don't want to know what you're doing. Do your own thing. And I don't want to have an impact on me at all. That is fair. But if that thing escapes its enclosure and it gets into your world, not fair, not okay. And I'm at the point where I'm not even okay if something stays in its enclosure because of its potential for escape. So I've also talked with you eloquently about doing something like putting things that are in a prison. Bad, wrong consciousness is going in a prison and just being like, just stay there for eternity. Just stay in prison for eternity because they never stay imprisoned. They are not good things. They are not good people. They're not good organisms. They don't just stay in their prison like good prisoners do. They do what naughty prisoners do, which is plot and escape. And that's what we've got going on right now. So Saturn was not originally an evil planet. It is a beautiful planet, but it has been co-opted by the satanics and now turned into a prison for some of the blackest, most, when I say black, I mean like dark, destructive, harmful levels of consciousness possible to have. And they all got put into prison there in the hexagonal thing that's at the pole of Saturn. And what do? They don't just sit there playing solitaire or gin rummy with each other. No, they plot and they escape. And that's why you have had them beaming satanic signals at your planet for a long amount of time. Those guys in prison aren't just sitting there doing nothing. They're beaming negativity and harm and even cancer and other bad stuff to your world. And so you can't just let that pile of garbage sit there anymore. So to get to the world of pure light and pure refinement of consciousness, you got to clean up and get rid of all this garbage. And it's not just a job for like one person. Don't be overwhelmed by it. Again, don't fry your neurons by trying to understand and comprehend and embody too much light. And also don't bite off too much in being hyper responsible. I want you to feel responsible and make a contribution, but it's a big job. So work together with others and work together with the sun and the stars. So big thing to understand, hold the sun accountable. You're like, okay, sun, you got to have an immune system to keep bad stuff out of the solar system. And then definitely having a planetary immune system, and then having a personal immune system, and also a social cultural immune system to keep frequencies, organisms, and echoes of stuff out that's not supposed to be there. And a lot of it's about information and ideas, value systems, and belief systems that do not belong in our world. Let me read some of these questions and comments over here. Rainbow Body says, do the new cosmetics have and wet cruh? I think I know what you're talking about. Some of this stuff. And I think a lot of it does. I am not inherently against self-decoration. So please never misinterpret what I'm saying. You guys know that I pretty much celebrate what our natural appearance is, looking good without looking unnatural, because in our world, there's a lot of things about what is acceptable appearance for both males and females, but a lot of requirements have been placed upon females for a long amount of time in terms of creating an artificial persona that you have to look like a certain way to be in the world. If you guys aren't familiar with what I'm talking about, like a couple of generations ago, for women to be in the workforce, like you had to wear makeup and pigments on your face, you had to wear high heels, you had to wear pantyhose, like you had to do a bunch of unnatural stuff to be acceptable in the world. All right. And so I am in backlash of that, advocating like, no, like you can be in the world without having to wear a full face of artificial kabuki paint every day, and people should love and respect that. But I also do, and I want to do two things. I want to affirm and celebrate like what you look like. Like if you have freckles on your face, I don't think that you have to hide that under a thick layer of makeup. Freckles are beautiful. And also, if you are a blonde and you naturally do not have very dark like eyebrows or eyelashes, that looks beautiful. I think that looks totally cool. Like celebrate who you are in the world. But if you feel like you want to put on lipstick, mascara, and other, face paints and things like that and decorate yourself, like do it. Don't let me judge you and make you feel like that's not okay. But you shouldn't have to do that just to be able to have a job or be appreciated in the world. All right. It should be strictly optional. And maybe it might be something that you want to do for certain occasions, but not for other occasions. So you guys have certainly seen some of my album covers. I'm wearing outlandish makeup, but I do not wear that every day at all. And if you want to know why, what I'm really into, like I'll tell you, there's a reason for this, because everything I do with my body, there's a very, very specific reason for it. I cultivate my natural skin oils, my natural microbiome on my body. So I do not wash with a harsh soap at all. Gentle cleanser only. And when you put on the makeup on your face every night, you have to take it off. You have to use a harsh stripping agent. You have to take off all of your natural skin oils. Then you have to apply artificial oils and all these other things. And really, it puts the pH of your skin way out of balance. And then sometimes it makes you look, inflamed, breakouts, all those other things, because of all the things that you're doing to your face to wash off the makeup. It's just to not help the cycle. So I don't do that. All right. So that's where I'm at with that. And I'm very selective about what I put on my face. But all of that's appearance, social stuff, and identity stuff. All of that is a side dish to what's going on with this, because this stuff is being put into a lot of different types of beauty products, hygiene products, and cosmetics, even beyond like lipstick, mascara. It's something that affects all of us. It's being put into stuff that's like skincare, sunscreen, toothpaste, deodorant, all sorts of different body care products. So I would say, if you would like my best advice, be super selective about whatever type of stuff you buy for your body, and only put on very, very selective things that are pure ingredients, or maybe even things that you make for yourself. You have to really read everything. So just like I'm selective about my sunscreen, and I found one brand that I like that is made of non-nano particles, and I, whatever, use that to keep my skin healthy. Like you got to find the stuff that is pure and then support those good companies, because there's only a few companies that are doing this, and mostly the entire, whatever it is, the industry of the things that people use for body care has been captured and then polluted by these tiny particles. And it's not even evident when this is going on. So like, I gotta tell you guys, I don't even buy Q-tips or cotton swabs, because I think that even things like that are at this point impregnated or inundated with the dust that we do not want to go into our actual bodies. So I am just not using any of those things. We're in a very, very weird world. And you got to be also, women, very selective about what feminine hygiene products you use, like for your monthly cycle, to try as much as possible to minimize your exposure, because there are things that are in those, both particles and other frequency emitters, that are tracking agents, and sometimes things that are absorbed in the body. I mean, it is the wildest, craziest thing that they are putting into these different products. So just try to be as selective as you can, and support companies and brands that are doing the right thing and that are making things that are good. So and the stuff that is in like fun makeup and stuff that's pigments and stuff like that, like you got to watch out for basically anything that's got sparkles in it, like little tiny pieces of glitter. I think that you really have to watch out for that. I think that that's not just decorative glitter. I think that some of it is actually this consciousness reduction glitter, it's stuff like here and stuff that goes on here, because your skin is going to absorb these things. So I would reduce my exposure to anything that's like that. And what are some of the other things that you really have to watch out for? I've also been hearing that there are now plans to, this is not, again, about makeup, but it is about personal hygiene, impregnate dental floss with certain, literally, things like this. And so now I'm like, well, what am I supposed to use? Like, I need to use something to clean my teeth. What is safe? Like, I don't even know, but you can't pay me to buy like the regular brand of dental floss at this point. So I don't even know, like, what is the right thing to do? So you got to clean your mouth, but I don't even know what is the right thing to buy. So, my goodness, like sometimes I know we just reach an impasse where it's just like, okay, guys, have fun. Like it's in everything. I mean, it feels very defeatist. So I don't want to end our class on that note at all. But you got to be super selective about all the different stuff that you use, and make your own stuff whenever possible. But there's a lot of things that are incidentally in our world, not even intentionally. So I think what's happening also is that there are some products that are made where the atmosphere is full of these tiny sparkles, and the tiny sparkles fall upon the manufacturing process and then get into the products that way too. So very, very difficult to know how to avoid these different things. So yeah, so okay. I mean, I know it's difficult to hear all of this because we have like an artificial sun, particles that are in food, air, water, and most cosmetics and hygiene aspects, and just a lot of mountains to climb in terms of living a pure life. And it's not supposed to be this way. So let's talk about planetary ascension the way it is supposed to be. So you're supposed to be able to walk around with your feet touching the ground, and with your skin like unprotected, in the presence of the unpolluted sun, in an unpolluted atmosphere, and just ingest all of that light and literally have it flow through every organ and connect your DNA to the sun. And you're supposed to laterally connect to all of the other organisms too. And you're all supposed to be having this amazing consciousness uplift experience. Key point, you get your food and energy from the sun, but you do have a rapport with the other plants and animals around you, but you don't feed off of them. And that's important. The thing that is most distressing about the dark side in our world right now is that it's very parasitic. So instead of cultivating a personal relationship with the sun, the stars, the galactic center, and energy or light itself, these parasitic consciousnesses and their motivations and their behaviors intend to take energy from you. And that is unacceptable. So you're busy like doing your meditation, doing your sun gazing, living an exemplary life and being full of light. And they're like, oh, nice light you got there. I think I'll just yoink some of it away and take it for me. And then I'll use it for my own projects and my own misappropriation. And none of that is acceptable. And not all of us are prepared for that, because if you come from a place of generosity of spirit, you're used to just sharing. You're used to just radiating. And you're not used to something coming along and trying to exploit or misappropriate what you do. Kind of like when you come here to this world and maybe you create art or music and you're like, yeah, I create art and music. And you don't know, like, you got to copyright that stuff because other people will steal it from you and pretend that it's their own and then make money off of it. And they won't give you any of the money. And you're like, that is not okay. So then you learn you have to protect your artistic creation so that you're not exploited. Same thing with your light. So when we go to the world of pure light, and it's not a go, it is actually you're not leaving. You actually don't hop on a plane and fly there, but it is an evolution into the levels of being in pure light. When you achieve that exalted state, you don't have to guard your light. You can radiate your light, and you also receive radiant light from both the sun and the entire network of stars and other people. But that is when you have achieved a non-parasite environment. There's no parasites. So as I said, we'll wrap it up from the beginning here. The erroneous expectation that there will be light versus shadow, or light versus non-light, or good versus evil. There will not be good versus evil in this world of pure light. You do not need to have darkness, evil, or shadow as a didactic presence. That's another really caustic New Age lie. The darkness, evil, shadow, distortion is not teaching you anything, but it does want to make itself relevant. So it tries to say, I'm your teacher, you need me. And I was like, no, go away, Judas, I don't need you, you're not my teacher. So that's a huge part of non-consent. These things try to say, well, you had to go through this in order to learn. And I'm like, no, actually, I didn't need to go through that in order to learn. And I can tell, I make like a very sarcastic face with all of that. And I can say this too, because I've been in a lot of different places and I have continuity of consciousness. And I know, and not all of you might have those levels of personal reflection. So it might be more difficult for you to say definitively what does and does not teach you. But I definitively can state for myself and for everyone that these are non-didactic presences. They are not some form of sacred darkness, and they are not your teacher. And the assertion that they are is so caustic, as I said before, so wrong, so corrosive, such a lie, because it implies that God somehow created them because we need them, because we need to learn from them, but we do not. We do not need them, and we do not need to learn from them. So when you're in this world of pure light, there are gradations between the light. Everything is light, and there is no dark, but you can still see and navigate. People here in dualism say, must have the darkness so that we can see and navigate and know, like, that's dark. I want to say S-H-I-T. That's dark crapola. Don't go there. Go over here towards the light. And you can do that without having to have dark crapola. You can actually navigate very, very well when there is 100% light, again, because there are different qualities of light. And the different qualities of light are also respectful, like, again, the stratification and organizational principle of having the light be where it is supposed to be. Okay, so Joyce says, I appreciate you, Professor. Thank you. Hugs to Miss Cheeky too. Much love and gratitude. You're very welcome. And it's okay if you need to go. Our class is almost over. And also, I'm going to archive everything. Avril says, thank you. I have always eye rolled when spiritual teachers say that these dark events are teaching me something and I need them. No, I really don't. I agree with you completely. And I think that that is one of the most liberating recognitions to have, because it is a huge cognitive dissonance. When people who are erroneously like spiritual teachers, you go to them for support, like something goes wrong in your life and you go to them for support and they're like, well, there's something for you to learn from this and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? It feels like bull crapola. It does not feel correct at all. What feels correct is to complain and to say, this is not supposed to happen. I do not consent. And I didn't learn anything from this. It's just not right. And I'm like, yep, I agree. I agree to all of those things. Like when you have lost a child or a pet that you really loved, your dog or your cat, or lost a limb to amputation or any of these things. Like, it is not like, oh, you're a sacred teacher and you have something to learn from this. Just horrible loss. Just really bad. And even the past 5 years in our world, everything since 2020 and the worldwide health problems and all of the subcutaneous pollutions and all these very, very unfair things going on in our world that are anti-ascension. I want you guys all to know and calibrate to this truth. None of that was essential for your ascension. None of that was needed. It wasn't like, oh, you guys had not enough experience of like what it is to breathe in a bunch of tiny artificial anti-life particles and have them invade your brain and have that affect your whole entire society, even before any type of, subcutaneous insertion of those particles. Just the other stuff and having it be in the atmosphere, breathing it in, having it be in the water, and having a fake sun. None of that is supposed to be part of your ascension. None of it. None of that is part of the curriculum. And it's very angering and makes me feel allergic, inflaming, when people make the assertion that it is supposed to be here. So misspellings exist. In your own DNA, each one of you has a real molecule that is known as the proofreader that goes through your DNA every single minute of the day and it looks for misspellings. And it exists to keep you alive because misspellings exist. And that happens with like the copying of cells within each generation, but also sometimes within the cell's lifespan. Like there can be a mutation that happens and the proofreader goes through and it reads for misspellings. And it's like, oh, look, there's a misspelling here. I'm going to fix it because otherwise you're going to die. Misspellings happen. Errors happen. And it is a disservice to try to do some mental contortion to be like, it's supposed to be that way somehow. It's like, it is not supposed to be that way. That is why you have proofreader to correct all of these misspellings. It's not supposed to be that way. So do not accommodate and calibrate to the need for misspellings or for the need for garbage in the world or for the need for harmful or what is the word, diminishing life circumstances. That none of those are actually what you're supposed to be experiencing. So life circumstances are emanated from the sun and the stars as a series of potentials. Literally, the light that is emanated from the sun and the stars, some of it is optical light that we see with our eyeballs, but some of it is the timelines of possibilities and probabilities that we have around us in our energy field and flowing through our time body, which is our chakras. And those are supposed to be finely calibrated, like specific things happen in your life. Each moment you're supposed to be in total alignment with the symphony of life, where the conductor is telling you what to do. So the sun is our nearby musical leader and tells us, do this, do this, do this. Like you wake up in the morning and the sun literally talks to the circadian rhythm of your cells and to your mitochondria and says, get moving, you're gonna have to digest some food, all right? Like do your thing. And then at the end of the day, the sun talks to your cells and says, time for you to rest now. Stop doing stuff, sit quietly and digest your food, then sleep. And detox your body and reconstruct your body. And when we follow those directives, we stay healthy and alive. And those are just generalized. You get directives from the sun, they're specific. So I recently wrote a very stick figure comic book. And I got the directive from the sun. I was outside in the sun. I got this idea and I'm like, oh, I'm going to just start drawing these pictures. And I did, because that was what I needed to do. Like literally the sun will give you directions, but should not accept as truthful misdirections that come from the world of false light. And so if anything, what you're having to do right now is to create a refinement or a sieve within yourself to separate out truth and true light from falseness and false light. We shouldn't even have to say the word false light, because that's like saying non-food food. Like non-food food is not food. It's whatever we call it, garbage or poison or something like that. But that's what false light is. It is non-information, non-informative information. It is erroneous or poorly calibrated or incorrect in some way. And everything in your life right now is the dire activity to try to survive by recognizing and purging yourself of false light and gravitating towards and ingesting more true light. So another question over here. Okay, yeah. And Kim Rose says, some teachers are saying if you were vaccinated, you are no longer completely human. What say you? It's a deep question. And I want to be really respectful of anybody who got the injections, because I don't want you to think that anybody is disposable. Like, you're gonna have no hope or something like that. You guys know that I do personal sessions and I help a lot of people. And some of the people that I try to help are people that did get the injections. And I use a variety of different things that I can do to try to remove nanotechnology from their bodies. So that way they can get their own natural detox processes going and try to clean house. I'm the cosmic cleaning lady. I do deep cleaning. I'm like getting into the deep fibers and, steam cleaning stuff out of there in their DNA. But then also I give people tools that way they can keep on cleaning their own body. Everybody's different. So please know, I think some people got the injections because they aligned with that agenda. They wanted it and they wanted to join the Borg and they wanted to lobotomize themselves and they wanted to lose their divine connection. Just like when some people drink alcohol, they drink to escape. They're like, get me out of here. I don't want to be awake. I don't want to know who I am. I just want to be benumbed and disconnected. Some people did that intentionally with their injections and their choice to do that. But some people did not. Some people got forced into it. Children couldn't render consent. Vulnerable populations like some developmentally disabled communities and some people in the indigenous communities of Australia and other places, like they didn't have a choice, literally held down against their will and injected. So I can't just lump everyone together into one giant cauldron and say, everybody who got the injections, that's it, there's no hope for you. For some people, there is hope. For people who aligned with the agenda, took the injections, also got all the boosters, watched all the propaganda, gave up their own willpower to something else that controls their mind for them, I would say there is not a hope for those people. But for people that took the injection but are doing everything they can to clear their bodies, purge any kind of nanotech, restore their divine connection, retain their sense of self, retain their personal integrity, make their own choices, not have something else control their willpower, like there is hope for them. But I don't know what it is shaped like. It's shaped differently for everyone. And it takes an enormous amount of personal willpower to do that. So it is a rare person that I think is able to overcome the side effects of being inoculated or injected with this stuff. I hope that I'm able to even like keep this video up. Hope this podcast is all algorithmic radars. But it's possible. And there is a real problem also because, so this stuff is a messenger of DNA. And even though the initial people who came up with this agenda to inject mRNA said it does not retroactively weave itself into the DNA, it does. And so that was a misrepresentation and false advertising to get people to participate. Only very belatedly have some relatively brave scientists come forward and said, actually, it turns out it does retroactively weave itself in. They should have told you that beforehand. That's not okay. Like if someone tells you like this is a non-permanent hair dye and you put it on, then it's like, oh, it turns out it's permanent. Like they should have told you that beforehand if you did not know. But that's a really, really big lie. And it's a huge lie that they're responsible for. And I think it's truthful. I could sense that from the beginning and tried to warn people about it. But if something has diminished your natural DNA's dance or behavior, it is very difficult to come back from that. It takes enormous willpower to take out the pollutions and to restore things to factory settings the way that it originally was meant to be. It can be done, and miracles do exist, but it takes a lot of effort and a lot of energy. So please know the road is a very difficult road, but possible. Oh, this is a beautiful thing to say. So this is from a person who's here in the class that I've been helping with sessions, and this is what they say. After 3 years with Aurora, much better, and don't lose hope. And I'm preserving their identity so that way, you know, it's their privacy. I don't want to talk too much about their medical stuff, and it's because things that I talk about, things that happen in sessions, I do not talk about outside of those sessions, even though this person is saying that they would like to share this with everyone. So they're just saying that they are much better after 3 years and that don't lose hope. And also I will share with you, they got one of the initial rounds of injections, but they did not follow up with more boosters and other things like that. All right. So that's really important. Like not to continue with the regime, not to continually re-expose yourself if you're trying to clear yourself out of this. But thank you so much, person who is unnamed, who is because you bring a ray of hope to other people. Who people might have regret, like maybe they didn't know, maybe they did it for the wrong reasons, but that were the right reasons because they told you like, can't see your grandparents if you don't do this, you can't do this or that if you don't do this. Like some people did it out of a sense of caring and generosity for other family members, and they got bamboozled, and none of that is fair. So there's a lot of like, I'm here as a planetary protector, and a lot of stuff is just not fair. So yeah, and I'm helping people as much as I can. Oh, good. Oh, and this is beautiful. Oh, yes. Okay, wait a minute. Let's see. So I will Rainbow, you gotta send me an email to remind me of which video link I need to send to you, okay? Because I definitely, after class, I know that I won't remember. I'll be like, I have to send someone something, I don't remember anything. And I admit to that. I got a lot on my mind. Avril says, I can 100% recommend Aurora's sessions. Thank you. Says she works above and beyond to help you. And I noticed a huge difference the following day when training. I am overdue my next session. Actually, LOL. Thank you very much for that beautiful testimonial. And it means a lot because it's just very authentic for you to say that. And I am very pleased to help people directly in the world. Like, you guys know that I'm doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes and a lot of flying rainbow lasagna stuff that's on a generalized, larger scale. But I'm also very pleased that I have the skills that I developed in this very strange time to be able to help people specifically on a one-on-one, because that way, like, I can actually do something to help someone's life, like it help them in their body, help them with their life trajectory, help them in the way that they're going. And that's important because it feels a lot better to have an impact that's direct than to just be like, yeah, I'm working on I'm painting with what did I say? Painting in broad strokes here. Like, no, I help people specifically, and I'm very pleased to be able to do that. Michael says, will not entrain naturally with the increased plasma coming in with our own plasma body. Now that we're at the end of a grand cycle, FRL speeds up the process. Yeah, so I don't know about entraining naturally. I don't even know what natural looks like anymore, but what's supposed to happen is that natural entrainment, that there's more light and plasma, as you mentioned, information, nourishment information coming in that feeds our light body. If we were untrammeled and unpolluted, we would all be like, hooray, more light food, yum, more light food. I'm going to eat more light. And you're not going to get fat. Don't worry about eating too much light and get fat. You just get really bright. All right. If someone's been eating a lot, you look at them, you're like, they seem large. They've been eating a lot. Or my dog is looking very plump. She's been eating a lot. But if you eat a lot of light, you don't get too large. You just get very bright and very illuminated. And that is, wonderfully positive. But in what is going on right now, we need to effort a lot. So we need to do a lot of like extra stuff to be able to clear yourself out, clear all of your conduits, and make it possible to receive the light that is coming in. And also, sometimes the light isn't that accessible. You have to effort a little bit to get there. So imagine, like, this isn't coming directly to your mailbox. Like, you have to go to the library to take out the books, to read and to learn about these things. The light should just be flowing to you, like come directly to your mailbox. But if it's not, you're going to have to look for it. You're going to have to effort. You're going to have to try. And that's something that maybe you're not expecting to have to. You're like, no, like, food should come directly to my mouth. Like, I just stand here. It's like the food should just go in. It should, but it's not. So you're going to have to effort and try to get it. And FRL absolutely helps to speed up the process. Oh, and Michael says, I read Bill Gates spraying RNA, blah, blah, blahs on crops. This is what makes me so enraged. And I do a lot of behind the scenes work on the level of preventing those types of agendas from going forward, because that guy, Bill Gates, is so effing evil. Like, really, our world would be better off without him in it, because he is such a bad person. And I have no problem talking about these high-level billionaires. Like, I would never say, like, a Joe Schmo, a person is not a good person, but he's a public figure. Definitely open season on talking about him. What schmo, he is not a good person. And I've read that not only is he doing experiments with spraying crops with mRNA, so that way when you eat the crops, it will be on the outside of it, but even injections into different fruits and vegetables. So again, vegans and vegetarians, you think you're safe, but you ain't safe. And then I've also heard putting it into dental floss and other personal hygiene products. This is because people have woken up to the dangers of these particles, do not want to ingest them. So they literally have to fool you or use fraud to try to get it into your body. And that is so dishonest, so wrong, so invasive, so horrendously evil. I can't even speak to it. I clutch my pearls. It's just wrong on every level. Yes. So you definitely don't want that stuff. And there's a new thing too that is called self-amplifying stuff that you don't want, because it's stuff that makes more of itself inside of the body and then goes into other people's bodies. And that's the worst in the world. Imagine if you had self-amplifying heroin. you inject it into yourself, but it amplifies in you, and then whatever comes out through your earlobes and goes into your neighbor's bloodstream, and then they get heroin inside of their bloodstream too. Would this be acceptable to you? No, of course not. Do you know why? Because I'm not an effing drug addict, and I don't want that in my body. If your neighbor just stuck it into his own earlobe, that would be one thing. But if it goes into my earlobe, this is a completely different story, and you guys know how I feel about Texas justice. All right? You guys are like, Roy, you should move to Texas. Some aspects of Texas I like. Some aspects of Texas I would not want to live there. Michael says, all my love to everyone here. Thank you, Master Aurora, off to gaze. You're very, very welcome. Thank you so much. And actually, I think that I will wrap things up for right now. I'm going to be able to take care of Cheeky and do a couple of good things as soon as it gets a little bit cooler out there. Let me just go through my notes super fast. I don't think that there was anything in here that I had to specifically contravene, but just to make sure to protect you from any erroneous presumptions about how I talk about shadow work. So please do not internalize that. Please do internalize a sense of having an inner sun inside of yourself. So this is actually, let me end on this concept. And my notes are good. You can always read my notes. What is the inner sun? At the top of your spine, where your skull kind of connects to your spine, you have a source of light that is like a candle inside of your own mind. It is separate from your pineal gland. So your pineal gland is forward towards your forehead, but this is a little bit further back in your anatomy. And you can also imagine your skull is like an eggshell that illuminates, like if you've ever candled an egg and how it lights up. When the skull plates are perfectly connected together, you're like a beautiful lampshade with illumination inside. The process of ascension and the process of personal enlightenment is a cultivation of and an activation of and a connection to that inner sun. So even though we perceive the sun as a brilliant external object and ball of consciousness out there, when you get to these levels of personal speeded upness and expansiveness inside, you identify with the sun to the point that the sun is inside of you, not just as an allegory, like there's no space between you and the sun. Literally, there's no space between you and the sun. The sun is inside of you, and it's inside of your mind, and it is emanating, and it is sustaining you, and it is transmitted throughout your whole entire body through the microtubuli network. And that is the ultimate, and that is how you begin to become self-sustaining. And you're not expected to be self-sustaining instantaneously, like turn on the light switch, and then all of a sudden, like, that's it, no more food for you. Like that was your last sandwich, and then you never eat physical food again. You do have overlap, and that's perfectly fine. So you get to have a transitionary period where your inner sun is awakening and growing and becoming stronger and is sustaining your body with the light that it creates. But you also supplement by eating whatever, chickens or avocados or whatever good things come from outside of you. And at a certain point, you have enough to generate within yourself, and you don't need externals, but you don't have to do that as a sudden cutting off point. So that's why we practice sun gazing as a type of daily practice. And you practice this cultivation of and connection with the inner sun, and also supplement with physical food. And the connection to the inner sun is also a mitochondrial connection through to mitochondrial DNA, which is a different pattern of DNA that is a subset of your nuclear DNA that's in the nucleus. Your mitochondrial DNA is called matrilineal, and it actually is unchanged. It comes from your mother through all of your female ancestors and goes all the way back to your original great, 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 a million times a million grandmother. Unchanged from an earlier time in your primal human existence. And the mitochondrial energy factories exist in order to be able to supplement or give you energy in a time when you don't have enough food. So just we'll end on this idea. Think about a primal time when humans lived, where maybe you had to hunt a gazelle, and maybe you might be like running all day like a hunter-gatherer to chase after this gazelle, and is running across the desert, and you're literally running like 100 miles all day long, and then finally, you're gonna get that animal and eat it. Well, you have used up so much energy. You used up way more energy than the meal that you last ate, whatever, yesterday or the day before. And your body has to keep going. You find these inner energy reserves with the inner sun. inside of your skull and in your mitochondria. It gives you energy to go even when you're out of food, because I'm hungry, food goes in here. And it allows you that extra oomph that you need so that you can get food, so that you can get the gazelle, so that you can actually eat it. I tune into that level of energy when I'm doing my flying rainbow lasagna, because it doesn't matter how many cookies I eat, or if I eat whatever, like pure fat, stick of butter, something like that. It's never going to be enough physical food to sustain the activities of flying rainbow lasagna, because however many calories you can ingest in your body, whatever 3,000 calories, even that's a lot. When you do lasagna, you need more than 3,000 calories. You need like 3,000 million, gazillion, quintillion, quintillion, googolplex a million. I made up all those numbers. A lot of energy to do flying rainbow lasagna. So you get it through your magical, supernatural, mitochondrial, inner sun, higher connectedness. So that's what I do in my own body. I supplement. I do both things. People that take my dance class, you know, I advocate like you should eat a little something before you do your dance, a little muffin, some fruit, a little something. But then when you're dancing and you start to like use up your energy, you're like, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I need energy. What do? You reach for the inner sun. And that is what sustains you. And then when you get to these higher levels in the flying rainbow lasagna dance, you get a total influx of energy. So you have to bicycle hard to get all the way up to the top of the mountain. But when you get to the mountain peak, it's like, ding, 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 here's $1 million worth of energy. And then it flows through every layer of your being all the way to your physicality. And you do that every day, and you are a wealthy person if you can do that every day. And this is also where the not only sustenance but regeneration happens. Like I stay youthful appearing and vital in my activities by doing the lasagna. What I do is I reach that higher plateau of inner energy that gives me the energy that I need to restore my body. Because I ain't getting it from around here, guys. This is like the you know, when you move to certain neighborhoods and there's no grocery stores and there's no restaurants and there's nothing around. That is where you live. You live in a place where like there is no good food for the light body around here. So if you want food, you're gonna have to go to a different neighborhood. You're gonna have to get out of your neighborhood in order to get stuff. But I go out and get food out of the neighborhood all the time. And then what I do as a public service is I send it out to you guys. And I do that with artwork, I do that with music, and I do that with, of course, teaching like today, but I also do it with my non-physical presence. And I don't do that to people who are evil. I don't feed them. I don't want to share my food with evil people. If I go to the store and I'm going to get a bunch of extra avocados, give them to good people, not evil people, like people who work for the government. I would never give them my extra avocados. I'd be like, no, I'm not going to give you my lasagna energy. But you guys, I'm very happy to give my lasagna energy to you guys, totally. And then, of course, the ideal is that through being sustained and inspired by what I give to you, you make your own journeys out of the neighborhood and feed yourself. So that's why I'm very, very pleased when I hear that Michelangelo is getting out there and doing his sun gazing at the end of class. I want to encourage each one of you, do your daily sun gazing practices, do your daily flying rainbow lasagna practices, and also my artwork, but definitely my music. Like if you need lasagna food, check out my music. And I've got stuff on like YouTube. I know there's commercials on YouTube, but I've also got stuff with my Bandcamp and my SoundCloud. Like it's not only about getting 25 cents from you guys. It's about giving you food that you can eat for your ears. So I've got it like on my Patreon, on my SoundCloud. Like there's lots of commercial free places where you can access my music. Listen to lasagna music and you will get groceries in your ear holes. All right. It's why I make this music, and I make it for myself too. Because you know what? I get hungry. And what does it feel like to get hungry? It's like when you need focus, need inspiration, when you need oomph, like to get you going, because the world is very crappy and kind of like wears you down and takes away your momentum. So for me to get going in my lasagna dance, I'm like, I need some momentum. Put on some music immediately. And it kind of gives me that energy to get going. Then I have to effort. But once I get going and I get effort, I get to the mountaintop and then I get a whole bunch more energy. This is how I do my day. All right. Good. You guys are doing very good. Okay. So let's bring class to an end. I think it actually is a good motivation for everybody. Like you should all go listen to some cool music, dance like a lasagna, and get some energy. Get out of the neighborhood, get some energy. Okay, good. And thank you very much to everyone who's in this class. Thank you to everyone who's able to come for the live lecture and for your excellence as students and for being able to listen. And then also thank you to everyone who catches the archive, because I know that people have work and life responsibilities or live on divergent continents, can't always tune in for the actual class. And I really appreciate that you take time to check out the recorded archive. So thank you very much, everyone.